Well, it says I am live, everyone. We have had all kinds of technical problems this morning, so I am going blind. So staff, if there's any way you can put the notes for our event on my phone or somewhere, send them to me on, I don't have another computer here because I can't get my notes on the other computer. So I have no run of show notes. So if you guys, my staff, hello everyone, I hope you're here. I cannot pull that up, Martha, because I'm on my other computer. StreamYard would not work on my other computer. So let me just take a deep breath, everyone. Who's here? Is anyone even here to watch our StreamYard? I hope you're here. For some reason, our camera on our big computer will not work. And my husband isn't here, and you know me in tech. So who is here? Hi, Tamara. So good to see you. So Martha, you're going to have to text me our stream of timing and everything. I have no idea what we're doing. If you could put that on my phone, that would be great. And I will have to just use our text. I cannot pull up the 3-hour live stream agenda. It's the first thing here. So you're gonna have to put it on my text because that's the only thing I can see right now, right? Welcome everybody. A little chaos is going on here because we didn't have cameras. We couldn't get our cameras working and we still can't. So I'm on my laptop computer where all my notes are for this event. And so I'm going to be having to wear my glasses. This is going to be a little rough today, but we are going to go with the flow, aren't we? So welcome everyone. I'm so glad you're here. Hi everyone. Hi Tracy and Connie and Amelia. How many of you have already joined our Conquer membership or already are in Conquer? We're doing this 3-hour live stream in order to give people the opportunity to meet some Conquer sisters, to ask some questions. I keep looking at the wrong camera because I'm used to looking at that camera. I have to look at this camera. I'm a little discombobulated this morning. We just found out that our camera didn't work and my husband isn't home. And so that creates drama because we were trying to do it via FaceTime and he couldn't get it to work. So we're on plan B, which is good. This is part of what we learn in Conquer is when we can't get something to go the way we want it to go, we can give up in frustration and we can just say, I can't, or we can pivot. And so we're pivoting right now. And so you are seeing real time me pivot and kind of flying in the dark. I'm not exactly sure. All my notes are on this computer and I can't turn to those notes on this computer because I am talking on this computer. And so we're going to try to make these texting notes really big so I can see them. And I'm not on Google Docs, Martha, in my phone. You're going to have to text. You're going to have to scroll those docs and text them to me, please. All right. So just give me the Google Docs. So I'm just going to fly by the seat of my pants and just do what I want to do because I can't look at the timing and I sort of know what we're doing, but I don't know what the timing is. But how many of you have signed up for Conquer already? And how many of you are waiting to sign up to decide maybe today that today is the day or tomorrow is our last day and then we're going to close our doors and Conquer will no longer be open? So I would love to answer some questions about why it's important for you to take care of yourself right now. Why is it important for you to take care of yourself right now? You know, I just read an interesting statistics this week that kind of shocked me. So I'm kind of a little bit not sure whether to say it's true or not. But so I have to do a little bit more research, but I'll say it might be true that Harvard has done a lot of studies on longevity and what makes people happy. But unfortunately, the study that they did, the longest longitudinal study on what makes people happy for over 70 years was conducted with men because Harvard mostly graduated men. And so they found that the most important thing for longevity and happiness was not success, not money, but marital happiness or relational togetherness, relational happiness. And I think that's true, except for women, that wasn't true. For men, it was true that they did better when they had a woman who was helping them. But women died earlier, got more exhausted, lost themselves in their marriage. And I think that may be true for you. That may be true for you. God designed marriage to be a wonderful partnership. That's hard sometimes for sure. That doesn't always flow well. Sometimes it's difficult. You go through seasons of difficult, but it's not meant to be harmful to either person. In Proverbs 31, it describes it as he trusts her to do him good, not harm, all the days of his life. And so because of that, he wants to be able to trust her, and she wants to be able to trust him, because safety is our number one need in order to function. If we're not feeling safe, whether we're a baby in a house that's screaming and yelling all the time, or whether we're an old person in a nursing home that's no one taking care of us and we can't get our needs met and we don't feel safe. I'm not just talking about we're not going to be beaten, but we're not going to be fed, or we're not feeling safe in our home environment where we live every day because we're being gaslit and confused and manipulated and controlled. We can't thrive, and it really, really impacts our body. God did not design marriage to be that way. And so Conquer is a membership for women who of faith, who believe in the sanctity of marriage and find themselves getting destroyed within the very institution that God meant to create safety and trust for them. And so if that's you, we want you to hear from some of our other Conquer sisters during this 3-hour live stream. We're going to fly by the seat of our pants because I do not have notes, but we're going to still be here. And we're going to be here and we're going to teach you that sometimes you just have to pivot. Sometimes it doesn't work out the way you thought it would work out. I thought it would work out so that I could be all organized and we would have it all together. And it's not working out that way. And sometimes it doesn't. And how we handle that matters. We can be a little befuddled. I hope you give me grace for that. I'm usually pretty organized. We can be a little befuddled. We can be a little not knowing what we're doing. But deep down, if we know what we're doing, we can have confidence that we can get through this. Maybe not in a shiny, polished way like we might have wanted to, but we can get through this. And God uses these things. Maybe God allowed this. This has never happened before on other computer where I couldn't pull up the camera. I just didn't have a camera to it. So God allows these things in our life to teach us things. And maybe he's teaching me to be better prepared when I'm not tech. I need to learn how to get my tech together better, not depending on someone to fix it for me. Or maybe he's teaching you through me that life doesn't always go the way we expect, and that you can do hard and you can get through hard. And Conquer teaches you those skills, those internal skills. Many of us have sat in Facebook Lives where I've talked about this, and I hadn't planned to use my whiteboard today, but we're going to talk about it a little bit, because Conquer is all about two things. So we've done this many times before, but we have two parts of our life. We have our internal part, which is our character and our feelings and our body and our mind and what's going on inside of us. And then we have our external part, life. Like the camera didn't work today, okay? Now, earlier this morning, I did some work here. Like, how do I want to show up here? How do I want to communicate what I want to communicate? How do I want to be here? And now here isn't working. Here isn't going the way I wanted it to go. How does that impact here? Right? And so we talk a lot about this in Conquer, because your marriage isn't working. He's not listening. He's not changing. He's not caring. He's not doing what you want him to do, or he's not honoring God, or whatever he's not doing that's brought you to our ministry. And it's impacting you here. And maybe it's impacting you and it's changing you. Like, you're bitter, you're resentful, you're scared, you're angry, you're confused. You don't know what God wants and what way is up. And it's affecting, this is now affecting here. You're not showing up as a mom like you'd like to show up. So these things affect each other, all right? And when we cannot change here, I cannot fix my computer right now. I'm not capable of doing that. Now what? How is that going to impact here? How am I going to show up here? How am I going to accept this? Not like it. I don't like it that it happened, but I'm going to accept it. I had to, or just not show up. And how do I pivot so that my insides are the way I plan to be loving and generous and gracious in our phone call, in our live stream today, right? So we can allow ourselves to get all discombobulated inside, or we can learn how to not let that happen. How do we show up loving in a marriage where we don't trust the person that we love? Maybe we don't even like the person we love. And I'm not saying that you have to sleep with that person that you don't like and you don't trust. But God calls us to love even our enemies. So how do How do we deal with this inside so that we don't become a person of fear, hatred, resentment, and bitterness? Because this may be over. The marriage may be done. I hope it's not for you. I hope you can work on it. But you may be over if you can't work on yourself. Diana, we're not ready for you yet. Can you get off camera? Thanks. All right. So anyway, it looks like we've got some guests coming in pretty soon, and we want to talk with them. But I want you to be aware that Conquer is a amazing support group, an amazing resource for you to build some skills here. How do I set boundaries in love? How do I speak the truth in love instead of speaking the truth in hatred, in bitterness, in resentment, right? Because ultimately, the person that you have to live with the rest of your life is you. And sometimes adversity can shape our character in negative ways, right? It can make us, just like this morning, it can make us impatient, it can make us cranky, it can make us irritable, it can make us discouraged. And I felt all those. I certainly did. But that's not how I want to be. But do you know how to listen to your feelings and not let them control you? Do you know how to do that? We teach you how to do that in Conquer. So without further ado, I see we have a guest here. Pam is here. And Pam, let me pull up my phone because I know that there's some questions that I want to ask you, and I want to make sure that I have them here. Yeah, if Howard, if you can pull up my Google Docs and get that on the main screen, that would be great. But I can't do that while I can talk. There's only so much I can do and talk and do all that. So I can't even find my notes here, Martha. Here we are. Thank you, Martha. I see some notes here. Let me just see if I can get the interview. Okay. Oh, I wanted to share one more thing. Let me just use my notes a little bit here. Yesterday, I read something that caused me to press pause. And so I'm going to read it to you right now. I love to learn. That's one of my highest values. And I love to let the Holy Spirit teach me new things, new ways of seeing, new ways of thinking. Humans are not driven by the past. How many of us think our life is controlled by our past? Well, my mother abused me. That's why I'm the way I am. My husband doesn't love me. That's the way I am, you know? And he says this, humans are not driven by their past. We're pulled forward by the future we're most committed to. And I would add the future we most want to create. So I'd love for you to just take a moment before we invite Pam here to take a moment and reflect. Your past, your childhood might stink. Your marriage might be awful. Your childhood might have been great. I don't know. But what I do know is if you're listening to me, probably your present right now is kind of messy. It's kind of not working right now. You're not working. Your marriage isn't working. Your husband isn't working. And so when you have unhealthy and unhealthy, it creates an unhealthy system for unhealthy children. And that's toxic for everyone. Your children, you've heard me say in the webinar, your children need at least one healthy parent. So you're not sure what to do. But the most important question now becomes, what kind of future am I committed to? What kind of person do I need to be in order to create the kind of future I want? And so take a moment and just write some words down for yourself to review later. Because I think questions open up very new possibilities for you. You can get caught in the question, why me? Why do I have to have this kind of husband? Why do I have to go through that? And that question kind of leads you in a downward spiral of depression and despair because sometimes there's no answer. But what kind of future do I want to create for myself and my kids? And what kind of character do I need in order to get there? Takes you to a whole new place of possibilities, doesn't it? So I'd love for you to take a moment and ask yourself that kind of question. To ask yourself that kind of question. And if you're willing, put it in the chat. Put it in the chat. Let me just see who's in the chat here and see if I can see. I can see the chat on this one. So some people are saying I'm a Conquer member, or Amelia says I haven't signed up yet. All right, I hope you are learning to think about you, because sometimes we say, oh, this is too expensive. I don't have the time. None of us have the time to do some of what we want. But you need to make the time to do what's most important. And sometimes what's most important doesn't always feel most urgent, right? Most urgent is your laundry, maybe, or maybe your most urgent is to clean up your bathroom or your kitchen. Take your kids to the doctor. But maybe what's most important is for you to do some work on you so that you show up to be the mom you want to be long-term and not just put out the fires short-term, right? And so this is so, so important. This is a live Zoom. I think it's being recorded, so you can watch it later as well, all right? So how about you? How about you? What kind of future do you want to create for you? All right. So I see Pam here, but I don't think Pam is my first guest. First interview is Allison, not Pamela. So we're going to wait for Allison. And meanwhile, I see Coach Leanne here. So let me pull Coach Leanne here. I don't know if you're here, Leanne, or not. We're all kind of off time right now. So let's wait for Allison. Allison's supposed to be here in a couple minutes. So meanwhile, let me just continue to talk to you about our noble self. I was just listening to a book today on my walk. I take a walk every day. And in Conquer, you're going to learn about your noble self. So let me just take my erase board and teach you a little bit about your noble self, if I can find a eraser. So this internal self of yours, not the external, not about your marriage, this is all about you. Your internal self of you has a body. So we're going to draw your body, right? Here's your body, and my pen's running out of ink, of course. And you have different parts to your body. Psychology is now looking at these different parts, but we're going to talk about it just real simply. You have a body, okay? And things happen to your body, and you have thoughts. Like, I can never do this. I'm not going to be able to do this Facebook Live because I can't get on tech. All right. Those were some of my thoughts, right? And then you have feelings. This is terrible. We're not going to be able to do this. I feel like a failure. I should have planned for this ahead of time. I should have checked my StreamYard the day before. All these feelings of thoughts and feelings, they actually go together. Your feelings make your thoughts make your feelings. Okay. And then you have, we call this you. And so many times you get caught as this is me. This is just me. This is how I am. This is how I feel. Well, this isn't you. This is how you feel. So you have feelings. But in Conquer, we teach you not to let your feelings have you. You have thoughts. How many of you have some really awful thoughts sometimes? But we want to teach you that your thoughts don't get to decide everything. They get to inform you. And then you get to decide. And so who is you? Who is you that's noticing I have thoughts? Who is you that's noticing that you have feelings? Who is you that is noticing that you have a body that's getting sicker and sicker and sicker in this destructive marriage? Who is this you? So often we don't pay any attention to developing this you. We just live by our thoughts and feelings. I feel horrible. My life is over. We have these terrible thoughts, and we just live in that reality, not recognizing that you are having these horrible thoughts. What do you want to do about these thoughts? And we call this you. It's going to be one of two selves, either your reactive self. Okay, so you react to these things and just live out of that place, or you create your noble self. And we help you learn how to do that both in our coaching groups, especially in Walking in Core Strength, and in Power to Change, which is coming up, our coaching groups. But Conquer will help you begin to think about that, to think about who am I? Who do I want to be? What are my values? And so I told you that I set an intention of I want to be a generous, wise, loving person, not just a leader, but a person. I want to be that way with my grandchildren. I want to be that way with my neighbors. I want to be that way with you. And so when my thoughts and feelings are out of alignment like they were this morning, I'm cranky. I'm impatient with my husband because he can't help me fast enough on FaceTime, which he's in a different part of the country. He's trying to help me on a computer on FaceTime. And I'm getting a little cranky and impatient. He's getting a little cranky and impatient. That's not how I want to be. And my noble self is well aware that I'm not responding in the way that I want to. That's helpful information, right? So I can regroup, so I can make different decisions. I don't have to be a slave of my emotions. My emotions don't have to control me, nor do my thoughts. This is terrible. No one's going to show up. This is, we're trying to promote Conquer right now and it's not going to work. All of the thoughts that I have, and I still have, you will always have those thoughts. because you're a human being and you're an imperfect human being. But in Conquer, we help you understand this is normal part of living. This is the normal part of the struggle, right? And this is how we grow. And as you begin to understand who your noble self is, you might pick different words to describe who you want to be. If there were only 3 words that my grandkids could describe about who their grandma was, they wouldn't pick fun. That would not be one of their words. Do we have fun? Yeah, but that's not one of my highest values. I hope they say, she was loving. I knew she loved me. She was so generous, and with her time or her wisdom, right? I hope they say those things because that's who I want to be. That's who I am. That's what's important to me, right? And I hope that shows to them. One way of understanding if you're living in alignment is, are you living according to your values? Or are you just reacting out of fear and people pleasing all the days of your one precious life? That is not God's plan for you. That is not God's will for you. That's not loving yourself. It's not loving others. So we will help you learn to grow into your noble self through Conquer and deal with the stuff that's happening in the external, your husband, your kids, whatever else is going on, in a way that honors you. It may not change him. He might not even like your new self, but you like your new self, and God likes your new self. And that's important. All right, so we're going to just invite Coach Leanne to come up for a minute and share. So I would love to invite you here, Leanne. Hi, I saw you're here, and so thank you for telling me you're here.
Well, I'm here, and hello, and
I can't hear you.
You can't hear
more
me? Well, that's weird. Can I?
Oh, you know what? I know what I did. I do know what I did. I turned off my sound on my other computer so that it wouldn't ding.
Can you hear me now?
I can, and you just heard that ding, right?
I did, and it's totally okay. You know what? And so here's the deal. I'm going to just send so much love to you right now, right? So much love to you right now. So I just want to encourage everybody, type into the chat some love here. Because one thing that I know for sure, when tech goes wonky, we have all this inner stuff going on. And Leslie, we just love you and we appreciate you showing up in real time. You could have made a different choice.
I was tempted to make a different
choice. I can imagine.
I can't do it. Right.
Right. You could have made a different choice. And so, I was like ready to get in my car and bring you a computer or paper copy, whatever we need to do. I'm here for you, girl. I'm texting, Martha, Howard, all the things, right? We're going to get this. And this is what I love. So if I could thank you everybody for sending love.
Thank you. I see all your hearts and appreciate that.
We are stronger together. None of us, whether you're Leslie, who's been doing this work for over 40 years, or me that's been doing this for more than a decade, can ever do anything alone. Yeah. We're not created to walk alone. And so, Leslie, thank you for modeling in real time what could be possible. What could be possible? And that's what Conquer's all about, right?
Yeah, and I appreciate that because I could not have gotten on if my husband wouldn't have, we wouldn't have brainstormed about, I could just use my other computer. But then I don't have StreamYard on my other computer. So I had to get the code, and all of those things. And like 2 minutes to go. And then I didn't have my notes. And so Martha texts, gives me my notes. And so all of these things, I couldn't have done this without helpers. And that's what you can't do. Don't ever think that you have to do this life all by yourself. And sometimes we need specific helpers to help us get through times of toughness. Leanne, you've been a coach on our Conquer, actually in our group, in our company for a number of years now. And one of the things I love most about Leanne is her red hair. My husband has always wanted me to be a redhead. I don't look good on red hair, but I love your red hair, and I love what it represents because you are probably the only extrovert on our team, and you are just full of energy and encouragement, and you are a fun person. Your grandkids will tell that story of Snow White on the beach with her seven grandkids. So you are a fun, vivacious, amazing woman of God who has two beautiful qualities. One is that you are fun and you have high energy, and you also can go deep and serious. And that combination doesn't happen often. So I love that about you. And tell us what you love most about helping our Conquer women get the lights on in their heart and their head.
Oh, what a beautiful question. So here's the deal. The lights on in our hearts and our heads is such a powerful thing because just like you exemplified here a minute ago, when the lights go out and we're walking in darkness, when we don't know whether to turn to the right or to the left, Conquer has become a beacon for thousands of women. It's almost like a lighthouse. You know, I traveled to the Northeast this summer and I saw amazing lighthouses all over the coast and up into Canada. And I know we have women from all over the world here with us right now. And one thing that I know about a lighthouse is that it stands really tall. It's often surrounded by water, right? Because it's going to bring the ships in. It's going to help people find them, whether you are on land, sea, or air. And I think about our women that we work with every day, that they're all coming from different ages, different demographics, different cultures, and their challenges are very unique to them. The one thing that binds us together is the difficulty and the challenges that we navigate in our relationships every day. And so, no matter where it is that we're coming from, no matter the challenges, whether it be betrayal, addiction, different various abuses, a lack of identity, a lack of a vision, losing your voice, whatever it is, there is something in Conquer that will be your lighthouse. It's going to shine bright. It shines bright 24 hours a day on our Facebook page that is private, not on your public like we are right now. There's also a whole learning portal for support and education. So when you wake up at 2, 3, 4 in the morning and you want some encouragement, you can find it. And so there's just so many things. And so in Conquer, we help shine the light in areas when you don't even know how to hold a flashlight right now. Or, there's so many metaphors here. And I probably have talked long enough. So I'm going to send it back over to you, but that's what came up for me, like in the moment, real live in the moment, because I don't have any notes either. So
yeah, well, thank you, Leanne, and I appreciate your spontaneity, and we want to. And I think one of the things that you will love about Conquer, I think one thing that the lighthouse represents to me is that all of you are going to be different. If we did a fun exercise, which you'll be able to do if you join Conquer, we have a welcome call where we do this exercise. What's your favorite, whatever. And we see that people are different. Like not everybody likes chocolate ice cream. I just can't even imagine. I wouldn't even eat ice cream if it wasn't chocolate, but not everybody likes that. They might pick a different flavor. And you'll learn about the diversity that we have. And I love that. But yet most women who join Conquer are interested in how does this fit in with my Christian values?
That's right.
And so as a committed believer, we have been taught as women, submission and, lay down our lives and die to ourselves, and God hates divorce. And so this has kept us stuck and unhealthy in toxic relationships far too long. Boundaries are bad. And there's been some really wrong teaching about what God says about these things. And so for the lighthouse, we always want to use as that anchor of truth, God's word. And so there is a lot of teaching about what God has to say and what he really says. And one of the things that I will say to you right here, right now, is just because you're a woman or a wife, you are not a second-class citizen in God's creation. You were created to be an equal partner and a co-heir with Christ. And Paul says there is no difference. There's no hierarchy between Jew and Greek, male or female, slave or free. This was busting apart the patriarchal system in biblical times that wasn't ordained by God. It was created by man. And Paul is saying, hey, that is not God's, the least shall be first. And so when we elevate certain people to have power over other people, that those terms are not biblically sanctioned as good, true, and right. They're oppressive and mean and ungodly. And so when it's happening at home, it's still oppressive, mean, and ungodly. It's not headship and leadership and this is what I need to teach you because I'm your authority. It isn't. Even fathers are not to be harsh with their children. The Bible tells them that. And so we really want you to get clear. If God's word is an important value to you and your relationship with God is an important value to you as it is to me and is to Leanne and everybody else on our staff, I want you to know him as a good, good father, as the best husband. He cares for you and he cares about what's going on in your house and he cares about your safety. That's right. He cares about your safety and your children's safety and a mental and emotional health. The sins of the father are passed down to the next generation and the sins of the mother. And so when you have two unhealthy parents, you raise unhealthy children. And we want you to, it stops here. Colleen Hoover's new movie, It Stops Here, is about abuse. I'm not putting this into the next generation. It stops here. And you can make that decision, and Conquer will help you do it in a godly way where you don't have regrets about how you did, what you did, how you said, what you said. And if you do have regrets, how to deal with that and make amends and grow from it instead of just let Satan beat you up with it. So thanks, Leanne, so much. I really appreciate it. What's your favorite step in the Conquer journey? Because everybody who starts Conquer starts in this one path. We want you to get the basics right away. It's not everything, but it's something. Because sometimes when you start something, you're like, oh, where do I start? There's like 50 paths. We take you on one path called the Conquer Journey. It's a 6-week program that will really get your feet deep into the basics. And so what's your favorite part?
Well, it's really hard for me to choose a favorite because I love all of it. Mm-hmm. I truly do. I think the two that stand out to me, well, I'll pick one because we've got a lot of guests and there's going to be others that are going to be able to highlight some things. So I'm going to say safety. Leslie, without safety and trust, there cannot be a healthy relationship. And so when we talk about safety within Conquer, it is not just your physical safety that we're talking about. I mean, we all have heard stories. It's all over the news. And that movie, you just, it stops with me or it stops with us or whatever. I can't remember the title of the movie either right now. But it's not always just, and there is no just in it, but physical. There is emotional safety, spiritual safety. Are you free to have your emotions, experience them, express them without fear of retribution or, being dismissed or abandoned in your emotions? Financial safety. Do you know where your bank accounts are? Do you know your financial status inside and outside? Do you have emotion or environmental safety? This is a big one, right? I mean, talking about computers and all the things, do we have emotional safety or environmental safety? Do we have safeguards around us? Is our house life-giving? The spaces and places in our homes, do we have a safe place to retreat to get quiet? Because I might be a little bit extroverted. I'm a little bit of both. But let me tell you, friends, I need my quiet. I need my alone time. I was up at 3:30 this morning because I love the sacred quiet in the morning. So I need to make sure that my environment that I live in is safe and is going to feed my soul. So I could talk, long about safety, but I would have to say helping women get 1% safer today than they were yesterday and not as safe as they will be tomorrow in all of those different arenas is incredibly meaningful for me. And I love nothing better than to watch the light bulbs come on when a woman realizes that she can make choices in her life to get safer in really healthy ways. really healthy ways.
Yeah, and just to give you some biblical support for that, the prudent see danger and take refuge. God values safety in your life. And so that's a really important biblical value. Even Rahab, when she lied to keep the spies safe in Jericho, God commended her. He put her in the Hebrews Hall of Fame. So even as we say lying is a sin, it's one of the 10 commandments, thou shalt not bear false witness. When it was for a good reason, for safety purposes, so that the spies wouldn't get killed and captured and killed, God said, you know what? My value for safety is more important than you following the letter of the law. And so I think this is really important that we look at the big picture, the story of God's heart and what he cares about. And so thanks so much, Leanne. I love safety too. And I think it's such an important part of our program to get women caught. It started with that first step so they don't get caught in being unsafe. I'm sorry, my computer is texting away because everybody's communicating back and forth. But in order to hear everybody, I have to have my sound on. So I'm sorry, everyone, for that. I don't normally allow that to happen because I'm on a different computer that I turn everything off. But anyway, thanks, Leanne. We're going to invite a guest up who's a Conquer woman. Thanks so much. All right, let me see how I get you down. And I'm going to add Pamela to the stage now. And before I do want to give you a trigger warning because Pamela's story is hard. And for some of you, you're here because you're living hard. She lived really hard. So I just want to give you a trigger warning because even when you're in the most darkest, hardest, shocking, I can't believe this is happening to me, Conquer can be here for you. And it was here for Pamela. And I want you to see how she's gotten through it. But I did want to give you a little bit of a warning. So I'm going to bring you up to stage. Pam, hi.
Hello, good morning.
Yeah, good morning. So thank you for your patience and for coming early and being here. And I so appreciate you willing to share your story because your story is really a horrific story of shock and betrayal. And we did a podcast with you, but I don't know if you caught your husband, but your husband is spending his time right now in prison after being caught in a sting operation for enticing a minor. And this came as a complete shock. You had no idea. Is that right?
That is correct.
How did you deal with that shock initially? Did that happen? Did that cause you to join Conquer, or did this happen while you were in Conquer?
No, this caused me to join Conquer. This came as a complete shock to me, and it was devastating. It made me question everything that I thought I knew about him and my marriage and my life. And
yeah, you've been married 35 years, is that right?
Yes.
Wow. Were there any red flags that he was attracted to minors?
No, there were not. I knew that he had, he had struggled before and had online conversations with women, but I had no idea. No.
Mm-hmm. And so what was your first step to kind of dealing with the shock? Your children, I assume you had to tell your children and all of that?
Yes, actually my children were with me when I found out because we had been searching for him that day. So when I got that call from him at jail, they were there. I have 3 grown sons. They were with me.
Wow. Wow.
So we've all learned about it together.
And so he called you from jail.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. How did you find Conquer?
My sister sent me a video of yours. It's actually your second Facebook Live from 2016, How to Say No to a Manipulator. Because I was dealing with him from, in jail, trying to get me to do things for him and that I wasn't going to do. And so that video just led me to it. You could have changed his name. You could have put his name in there and you would have been speaking directly to me. And I just went from there to more of your videos. And I'm like, oh my goodness, this woman knows, she has the answers to what I need. Mm-hmm. And so that's how I found you, a caring sister.
Oh, that's so neat. That's so neat. That blesses my heart that other people are referring Women to Conquer. And so once you began to get your eyes open to, I mean, the shock of the arrest and that, was there other, as you were looking back over your history, were there destructive behaviors that you kind of, the Bible talks about two kinds of things. We forbear. Everybody's got issues. We forbear one another's sins. We're not going to, bring up everybody's stuff. And some stuff is just not forbearable. You have to bring it up. What was going on in your marriage that you began to see differently once all this came to light?
There was a lot, manipulation, control, of course, the deceit, which I realized was going on my entire marriage, reactive abuse, gaslighting, and there were some other forms of abuse that I've since discovered that I didn't really recognize them as abusive. I just thought it was part of I'm being submissive to my
Can you give us an example?
to my husband. Well, covering for him. When I would bring a concern to him, he would dismiss it. He would turn it back on me. I didn't say that, or I didn't mean that. It wasn't my intent. So the emotional, I guess, abuse, or that in that kind of manipulating, and he would manipulate. He was very good with his words and confusing me, and I didn't even know what the term. I've heard the term gaslighting, but I didn't know what it meant. And I was like, when I sat down and listened to, I dug into it. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's what he's doing to me. This is what he's always done to me. And he was good at it. And I was, naive. And I really thought in covering for him, when he would do something that was, I didn't think was pleasing to God, or, I covered for him. I overfunctioned and made sure that I did whatever I had to do to keep the peace in my house. And, I would run interference with the kids, don't bother him now. Didn't have a good day at work, those kind of things. And I realized that none of that was healthy. And I should have let the kids interrupt him a little bit more than I did.
So what I'm hearing you say, and I think this is really hard, ladies, for us to hear, is that as you began to see more clearly, it wasn't just his stuff, but you began to see some of your stuff, in that you spiritualized your overfunctioning or your dysfunction of dying to self, or giving him his way, or accommodating him, and all of the things that we think are so virtuous. We spiritualize that instead of confronting that. We kind of take it as we need to be the heroic martyr I talked about in the workshop, that we can be the savior of our family if only we do all this stuff.
Yeah, that's what I was doing. And in public, he would say, my wife is wonderful. She takes care of everything, and made me look, to everybody else that, he put me up there on that pedestal, but at home it wasn't the same.
And so as you began to wake up and begin to do your work, what was that like for you? To begin to look at your internal. You could say the external, he, but he's in jail now.
Right.
And so now I'm looking, wow, I've got to, what were some of the things that you wanted to learn to do, or you needed to learn to do to get healthier or stronger, not be as easily manipulated, for one thing?
Well, the first thing I had to stop looking at it, because everything was him. He did this. How is this affecting me, and what do I need to do for me to go forward? Because I didn't have to ask the question, my future was pretty much decided for me. Now I have to figure out, how am I going to walk this future out? And I had to tear down that false belief of what biblical submission was. That was my very first step, is tearing that down and rebuilding it on what the Bible says about the role of a wife. And when I was able to do that, I realized that he was my standard of measurement, that everything I did was based on him and what he would think. And when I turned to what would God want me to do, then I realized I can't even be concerned about what he's doing right now. I have to step away and let him do his thing, be what he's doing, be what he is, and I have to take care of me. And Conquer has helped me do that in so many ways. I haven't worked in 35 years. I didn't know who I was. I didn't even realize I liked things that I like until I saw them without him in the picture. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm drawn to that. I like this.
Mm-hmm.
And I was realizing just more and more of how much I had lost who I was, and that I knew I desperately, not only did I want to find out who I was and discover myself, I had to. It would be a necessity for me to be healthy moving forward.
Mm-hmm. How did you deal with your boys through all this? How did they handle things?
They did very, very well. One of my sons is a youth pastor, and they've been phenomenal through this. I really, they know everything, so that I think has made it easier for me. But they're grown, so it's not like I was, these were children that I was dealing with. They're grown men, and they have just been phenomenal. They've been with me and for me every step of the way, and they still struggle because this was their dad, and they are finding their own way in that, and what kind of relationship, if any, they want to have, with him moving forward.
Mm-hmm. Can you share some of the ways that the Conquer Facebook group, so we have this Conquer library where you were, reading and growing and learning. And then we have the Conquer Facebook group, the private one, not this one, where you can kind of go to and just kind of say, help, I'm drowning, I need prayer, or this is bad, or, oh my gosh, I just got this news, or whatever. How did you find that to be supportive for you? What ways specifically?
Oh my goodness. Just like a little over a week ago, I was having a terrible, terrible day. I mean, I was in a lot of pain, and I was just crying and crying and crying. And this went on for several hours. And I just cried out to God, and I said, what do I do with this pain? Who do I call? Do I call my sister? Do I reach out to my therapist? Who do I call? And as clearly as I'm speaking to you right now, he said, I have given you sisters. Reach out to them. And I pulled out my iPad, and I pulled up Facebook, and I just poured out my heart. And as soon as I clicked post, the very last thing that was posted right before mine was the scripture in Isaiah, and a sister just shared it. She said, for encouragement, a bruised reed he will not break, or crush, I think, a crushed reed he will not break, and the flame he will not put out. I don't know the exact wording of it, but I just broke down, and I felt peace at that very moment. God knew exactly what I needed to calm me down and to bring that peace. And he used a Conquer sister to do that. And it's phenomenal to know that any time of the day, in the middle of the night, I could pull that out, and somebody knows what I'm going through. Somebody's been through it. They can pour into me. And there've been times when I've been able to pull up and scroll through and find somebody that I can pour into. Because we're all at different places, but we have to keep going together. And that's really what God put us here to do. This is what the body of Christ is all about.
That's so beautiful, Pam. And I love that our Conquer support group is such a phenomenal means of support. For those of you who are in Conquer or considering joining Conquer, we are having a virtual conference in 2 weeks from today. It's going to be amazing. We only do it every other year. And so that really helps build that support and community too, as you really get to know your sisters. We have a little bit of a live component and then a big virtual component that do a lot of breakout groups and things like that, so that you can know your sisters a little bit better. Pam, what was your biggest learning so far as you've come through this group? What would be your biggest takeaway, or, if you have one?
Well, what you were talking about at the beginning about your noble self, just finding out, discovering who that is. That's my biggest takeaway. And I guess the biggest thing was learning that I need to figure out who that is.
Mhm.
And it's a process. I'm still learning every day. I'm learning what I do and don't like, and what kind of jobs I may or may not want to do, and just, all of the things. And then the practical tips that, like, when I'm depressed, what do I do? When I'm confused, when I'm overwhelmed, what are the practical, steps to take? And all of that is right there in the library, in the videos. It's just, all I have to do is go do it. But you have to do the work. But you've given it all to us, and it's been phenomenal. So
Oh.
there's so much that Conquer has helped me in. And I don't know that would have been I guess that is my biggest one, because if I don't know who I am, I can't move forward.
Mhm. I love that. And I think that's so important for all women, not just women in destructive marriages. But I think we have seen ourselves as worker bees, not people. And, to really develop our concept of who am I? What do I like? What don't I like? What am I here for? And, just not like to, build an empire or anything like that, but I'm here for a purpose. God made me here for a purpose, and it's not to be used and abused and manipulated and lied to, right? And so
Right.
just really understanding who you are in Christ, and you are God's daughter, is so, so important. And also how He specifically, like, we can say, oh, we're all flowers. Well, we're not all the same flowers. There's differences between sunflowers and roses, and they need different nutrients, and you need to know which one you are in order to shine your brightest self. And so I really appreciate that you have not let Satan get the best of the situation. When Jesus says, or Paul says, do not be overcome by evil. I mean, this would have been a perfect opportunity for you to just get overwhelmed by your husband's evil,
Mm-hmm.
and start, doing some evil back of your own toward him or toward Christ or all of that, and to say, I'm not going to let that happen to me. His evil is not my evil, and I'm going to shine. I'm going to shine. And you are. You are. What would you say to a woman who's considering joining Conquer and she's on the fence?
Run. Do it now. Don't wait. You won't regret it. Gosh, I don't know. The team of professionals that are available to you with the Zoom calls and the monthly calls, it's phenomenal. And it's an investment in your healing. It's an investment in your future. And it really is a small investment for the value that you will walk away with. I kind of describe it as, it's that feeling where you walked out of TJ Maxx with those $200 pair of jeans that cost you $25, and you stop and look in the mirror every time you pass one because you look really good in them. That's kind of the value for the buck that I think you get from Conquer. If I were to go, have to, go schedule an appointment every time I needed to go get help that I got out of Conquer, it would have cost me way more than the small investment that I made in this. And it is so worth it, every penny, and you will not regret it.
Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate that. And maybe if someone could put in the chat, if someone would, or go to the podcast link where they can listen to Pam's story if they want to hear the podcast, that would be possible. So thank you so much for sharing publicly your story. I know it's been really, really hard, and no one would ever choose that path, and yet you're growing from it. It's like, wow, God is taking the things that Satan meant to destroy you. And they may have destroyed your marriage, and they may have destroyed your husband, but you're not letting that destroy you. And I think this is the message that I want every woman who's listening to this to know, that your husband may not care, but you've got to care, because God cares about you. But you've got to do your work to get out of that hole.
Yes.
Yeah. Thanks so much. Appreciate you.
Thank you for having me, Leslie.
All right. Thanks. God bless.
You too.
Wow, that was tough. That was rough, isn't it? It's hard to hear someone's story, and yet she's here. She's alive, and not only is she surviving by her fingernails, she's not doing that. Did you hear that? She's thriving. She's thriving. Well, how? How did she do that? I hope you get it. Her husband can't help her thrive. Her marriage is gone, but she is thriving. You can too. You can too. If your entire well-being is dependent on your husband's changing or his love or his benevolence, you've made him your God. You've made him your source for your well-being. And that, my friend, is idolatry. Marriage is not meant to be our all and all of everything we have in life. Marriages are hard. I've been married a long time. They're hard. And they can be great, but they can also be soul destroying because people are people and they can sometimes do very evil and sinful things that break apart trust and safety. And Pamela is a great example. Her story is a great example of that. And yet she thrives. And yet she's able to support herself. And yet God knew from the beginning of time this was going to happen. And he had her. And he had her conquer sisters here to have her too. Because you cannot do this journey all by yourself. I can't do this. Like I said, I can't do this journey by myself. Even getting on Facebook today was a team effort. Having this 3-hour live stream is a team effort. Martha's texting me, everybody's dinging me, and I don't multitask well. And so I'm doing the best I can. And it's okay. It's okay. And I want you to get over this need to be perfect. I was doing a coaching call yesterday with one of our Conquer members. One of the things that we do in Conquer is we reward you for doing your work. And so if you do your work, which is, you have to, it's a self-study program, and you post, hey, this is what I did. I watched this video and this is what I practiced and this is what I did. We put you in a drawing every month, and the winner of that drawing gets a coaching consult with me. And so I had one yesterday, and it was just really fun to talk with one of our Conquer sisters and help her get a little bit more clarity on what does trusting myself look like, Leslie. I've so lost trust in myself because I thought I knew him and I didn't know him, and I thought I was doing the right thing and I wasn't doing the right thing. And so how do I rebuild that trust in myself? And so these are opportunities for you to really dig deep in your own personal growth and develop it, not in a narcissistic, I'm better than anyone else kind of way, but in a stewardship kind of way. This is the one life that God has given me. How do I live it well? And you get to decide. You get to decide what kind of today you have. You get to decide how you're going to handle what comes at you today, just like mine did this morning. And you get to decide what kind of future you want to create or not live. And that's part of knowing yourself and having some boundaries about that. Anyway, so let me bring up our coach, Diana. So hold on, I'm going to click you to the stage, Diana. Welcome.
Right. Well, I'm back again. About a day of faux pas, huh?
Yes. Well, thank you for being here. And we're just going to roll with it. I think God wants our ladies to see that there is no perfect. And it's okay. There is no perfect, even serving God, even doing it, that we make faux pas or we don't know something or we can't figure it out. And I said, hey, you're on the camera, get off. And so we can give each other feedback. But don't we give each other feedback? I'm doing a talk next week for the American Association of Christian Counselors on the importance of truth tellers in our life. Because we see pastor after pastor after pastor after pastor falling because of moral failure and corruption and abuse of power and all of that. And part of it is because they don't have the connection of trusted others who can say, your zipper's down, your lipstick's on your teeth. Hey, even in Conquer, we say this to one another in a kind way. I'm not sure this is the greatest way to respond. You might want to think about it some more, right? We need those checks and balances to help us show up as our best self, right? I want someone to tell me if I have lipstick on my teeth so that I don't smile with a big red on my front tooth. But anyway, Diana, I'm so glad you're here. One of the things I love about Coach Diana is just her groundedness and her gentle spirit. She's just got a gentle soul about her, and she's very attuned to your body, your soul, your spirit, and she just is very gentle in the way she answers. And so I love that about you because I'm more of a and you're just gentle and calm, and I appreciate that about you. We have different people on our staff, and different people resonate better with different people, and that's part of the beauty of having a group of people to surround you and help you. So
It's always nice to know how someone else experiences you. I think it's a really gift. It's a gift for someone to speak into that. And so I thank you for that. You know, thinking about, speaking about having someone else shine a light on you, you asked Coach Leanne what her favorite steps to conquer was. And I would say one of my favorites is clarity. And I think that often our ladies come to conquer and they don't have clarity. They just come with confusion and self-doubt. And I think, you know, getting the lenses changed and getting information and support just brings clarity, which enables us to grow strong and to make better choices.
I love that you said that, Diana, because Jesus says that. He says, when your eye is healthy, your whole body is full of light.
Yeah.
But when your eye is dark, your whole body is full of darkness. And here's the real clincher is he says, and those who think they see when it's actually darkness, those are the most self-deceived. So he talks about those people who kind of act like they know everything, but they really don't. They don't even know that they don't know everything.
Yeah.
And so clarity is really truth. You shall know the truth, and the truth will set you free, even if the truth is hard. I'm sure Pam didn't want to hear the truth that her husband was a pedophile stalking other youngsters. She didn't want to hear that. That's ugly, ugly, ugly truth. But that actually set her free.
And I think, you know, I was just reflecting on this morning in a conversation with a friend. We were talking about someone that we know. And it just brought to my awareness, Leslie, that often we don't know what we don't know. And specifically in this population, our women come and they say, I didn't know I was being abused. And it might start with, I've read her book and now my eyes are open. Now what do I do? And so that's why I do think clarity is so important, because if you're stuck in this vacuum of misinformation and you don't even know you're oppressed, your soul is crushed. You said your mind and your body. Your body is also experiencing that lack of truth and clarity. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that that's so important because, again, you can't even make good decisions for yourself.
No.
If you can't see clearly. And so God really says he's put the Holy Spirit in us to guide us. He's given us one another to guide us. And so often we only are allowing the voice of our husband to guide us. And if he's in a bad place spiritually or mentally, it's like the blind leading the blind.
Yeah. But once you see, you don't unsee. That's the good part, right?
Yeah. What is your favorite part about Conquer?
My favorite part about Conquer, let's see. My favorite part about Conquer is how we have it designed. We have it designed so, and I think, you know, we don't know where to put our feet at first. And so I love the way that we've changed things up recently in the last couple years. And we have a process where we can help ladies know where to start at all of those stages to conquer. What I love about Conquer and the work that I get to do in the organization is that I get to watch ladies go from being oppressed to being awake and aware and thriving. I think, what is the term that I used? I wrote it from oppression to agency. I love that. And, you know, most of them come in experiencing self-doubt and confusion, and finding these strategic tools that we've carefully and put together, along with the support and help of ladies who are on that journey. Some of them are in different stages on that journey. But Leslie, you know, I come from a corporate background as well. And, you know, I've worked in business and I've worked with other women, and some others might have had different experiences, but I've never found women so supportive of one another as I do here. And I love that, because it's arm in arm, walking together. No matter where you're at, you have someone here and you're not alone.
Yeah, I love that. Some of the features in Conquer, that community. So you're getting, and don't get overwhelmed. You might think, I don't have time for all this. Well, you don't. Most of us don't. So
Right.
pick what matters most. That's why we start you off on a 6-week journey of, hey, let's get the bare bones inside of your head so that you can begin to noodle with that and see where you need the most help with. Maybe you need the most help with clarity, or maybe you're really crystal clear and you go through that module and you say, I need the most help and stop reacting. My husband's driving me crazy. And every time he pushes my button, I'm like reacting. My kids are thinking I'm ready for the nut house. I need to work on that piece. So it sort of gives you kind of the flow of what might be possible for you if you were to focus on one of these steps a little bit more. So maybe that's what you're going to work on. Or maybe you're going to say, I really need the community. I need sisters who understand what my life is like. And so maybe you're going to spend more time building those conversations in Facebook, or getting to know some of your Conquer sisters in the local community, which we try to do as much as possible. So I'm going to be in Texas next week. So any of you are in Conquer, are in Dallas, we are meeting for breakfast next Saturday. So put it on your calendar. We will be meeting downtown Dallas. You'll get the details if you're in Conquer of where to meet. And my purpose wherever I travel is to bring Conquer sisters together so that you meet one another, so that you have a local support group of Conquer sisters. Because you're coming to meet me, but you're really coming to meet one another and see who else is in your vicinity, so that if there is a need, a crisis, whatever, you've got someone local who understands as well, or maybe is attending a much healthier church than you're you're at right now, so that you can handle the kind of biblical stuff that comes at you that doesn't feel clear anymore. It feels confusing. And so we really want you to get connected with one another in Conquer membership. So maybe that's what you're going to spend your time on. That's really important. And I appreciate that you saying that, Diana. There's different components to Conquer depending on whether you have the time to do it all or you just want to take a piece of it. It's all valuable.
It means so much. And I'm so grateful that you do that while you're traveling. You did that in Ohio. And it was so wonderful to sit with the ladies who met one another and discovered that they were local to one another, and encouraging for them as well. So it's so hard to define everything that I love about Conquer. There's a lot going on. There's a lot for everyone. And no matter where you're at, there's a place to plug in terms of where you are in your next phase of growth. And our staff has such a heart for these women, and many of the women on our staff have been through this journey as well.
Yeah. I appreciate that, Diana, that you mentioned that, because our staff, most of them have been through this journey. Most of them have been in Conquer. I mean, I think that this is part of what you're going to experience. And I think that having a voice and having a choice and having conversations where what you say matters begins to heal this broken part inside of you that you didn't matter. You didn't even know what you thought because nobody listened, right? And if you don't have anybody to really listen to what you have to say, how many of you have just been talking out loud to people and all of a sudden in the middle of your talking, I don't think that's what I really meant to say. This is what I meant to say. But you don't even know that until you talk it out loud with a listener. And so having that opportunity to have Conquer sisters in the Facebook page who do listen, and we have mentors who have been in Conquer a long time, who've been a little bit further trained to be more supportive of being able to help you find what video is in the video library that might be able to help you at this time and things like that. So there's lots and lots and lots of resources for you, far more than what you're paying for. But because we want you to do this, and it's such an important part for you. If you need more help, we have individual coaching if you want an individual coach. We have group coaching if you want that. You can go pay for some individual therapy, and sometimes that's really necessary, but this is how Conquer helps your individual therapy. You can learn the concepts in the video. I was a therapist for 40 years. You can learn all the concepts in the Conquer library. They're all there. And then put them into practice with your therapist if that's what you need some extra help with. But that can help you move the needle forward exponentially, as Pam was saying in her therapy, that you can just know what you need from that and get some of the other needs that you have in Conquer. Diana, anything else you want to say that is that you think would be helpful for someone who's sitting on the fence and not sure whether this is her?
Yeah, I think there's a ton of information out there. I think what we're looking for and what we're focused on is transformation. So everything that we have geared is giving you tools and support and expertise in this specific area. And so the information is really designed literally by experts in the field, specifically Leslie, and we've contributed as well. And it's biblically based. So there's been many places where I would say that we've been harmed because we have been misled as to what scriptures mean. And so rightly dividing the word of truth is key in your journey. And then just lastly, I find the most important thing, Leslie, is to discover that you have a voice, because oppression takes that away. And so as a part of that voice is, regaining my ability to speak, to know what I want, what I need, to advocate for myself. And that's not a small thing. And so if you're in a place where you're confused and you don't know where to begin, you can read a book. And there's a lot of them out there, even untwisting the scriptures and things like that. But this is specifically designed and strategically so you can move forward. And we've simplified it so that you don't get lost in the process. So I want to just encourage you to come along, get your feet wet and begin.
Thank you, Diana. I couldn't agree more. And I think one of the things that we really focus on that sometimes gets lost in the, internet land, where you're searching this person's YouTube or this person's video or this person's book or all those kinds of things, is the application. And as a therapist, and I'm sure you've experienced this too, Diana, one of the things that my clients would often say is we'd be talking about a spiritual concept and they'd say, well, I know that in my head. I already heard that a million times. I just don't feel it. And what they mean by feeling it is I don't believe it. I don't see it working in reality in my life. So how do we get it from, oh, I know I'm an image bearer of the Most High God, to I feel like an image bearer of the Most High God. I am strong in that reality. It's not just, I know it up here. And I said in the webinar that Jesus said over 70 times in the gospel, I'm telling you the truth, but it requires truth to be coupled with belief and trust. And so that's the work. The work is to believe and to then take that belief. If it's true that I'm capable of writing a book, well, then I have to sit my butt down and actually do it. And then I have to correct it, and then I have to fix it, and then I have to get feedback on it so that I learn to do it better. And that's the process. Paul says to Timothy, fan into flames the gifts that God has given you. But if you don't know what those gifts are, and you don't have people around you that can speak into your life, and you can begin to fan those flames, you just live as a robot, as an object. And that is God's last design for you. So I appreciate you bringing that up.
Yeah, I'm so grateful to be here.
Thank you. Anything else you want to share with anybody who's sitting on the fence and don't know whether this is a good choice for them?
Well, let's say, it's not a huge commitment. It's a commitment, I think, and you deserve a huge commitment to your own growth. And it's work. It's not, but nothing that is worthwhile is easy. And so if you're on the fence, you have nothing to lose. Join, conquer, figure out what it's all about. Give yourself 6 months in the journey and then decide. But I would encourage, if you're on the fence and as you walk away and you say, yes, I'm going to do this today, start journaling. Because that's where, when you go back to your journal, even a month into Conquer, you're going to be saying different things, asking yourself different questions, and you will be able to see how you've changed. Sometimes we don't journal that or mark it. I get to notice it because I work with you all, and I get to watch you from week 1 to week 6 to week 12. But I noticed even for my own growth, I pulled out my old journals and I was like, oh my goodness, I have changed in a couple of years. And so I would just say that if you engage and you do the work, I guarantee you will be different and in a good way. So.
Yeah, thank you so much, Diane. I appreciate that. And it's true that, we do have work to do, and it will cost us. It will cost us our time, it cost us our energy, and it costs us our money. And that's true of everything, whatever you do. So you have to decide whether, the investment of money is actually low compared to many other things out there. But you will grow, you will change, and you will learn if you invest your time and energy. That's more of the I think, valuable piece of having to invest. The cost is low so that you can put in the time and the energy and get the value that you need to really become stronger and more aligned with the woman that God called you to be, and not the person your husband wants you to be. And that's a very different goal. Thanks, Diana. Appreciate you. Let you go. All right.
Bye for now.
All right. I hope that was helpful. Diana is really an amazing coach. And so we have, like I said, we have Conquer. The coaches are doing the Conquer phone calls. We do those twice a month, once in the evening and once during the day. We have about 30 minutes early. You can come into the Zoom room and you can chat with other Conquer sisters, get to know them. Then the coach answers some questions for you during the live call. And obviously we have more people in Conquer than everybody can get their question answered, but because you're such a homogeneous group, you're all women, Christian women in destructive marriages, that's how you're identifying yourself, that's why you're joining Conquer. All of your questions are very similar. Some of the details might be different, but we think about Pam's story. You know, your story might not be that your husband's arrested and in jail, but it might be that you're still being manipulated, right? And so if Pam were to ask that question in Conquer about how do I deal with a manipulator, the answer to that question might serve you having to deal with a manipulator husband who wants you to co-sign on a loan that you don't feel comfortable about, but he's gaslighting you or he's guilt tripping you or whatever tactics a manipulator uses to get you to go into compliance. And you're not sure how to have a boundary against that. You're not sure how to stand up against it. You're not sure if you can stand up. Is that okay? Are you allowed as a woman to say no to your husband? Are you allowed as a woman, as a wife, as an adult to think for yourself? Or do you always have to believe your husband's version of reality? Do you always have to believe your pastor's version of what the Bible says? Or are you allowed to say, you know, that just doesn't make sense to me? I'll never forget when I first realized that. I was at a women's retreat. This was before I wrote any books. I was a counselor, but I was home with my kids. So I wasn't counseling. I was home. I was taking care of my kids. So I had that credential, but I wasn't using it. And I was at a women's retreat, and this woman was talking about headship and submission. And I was in the audience, and she was talking about how beautiful submission is, and God will protect you. And so she was talking about this woman whose husband didn't want her to be pregnant, and she was pregnant, and he wanted her to have an abortion, and she didn't think she should have an abortion, but she believed she should submit to her husband. So on the way, so the speaker is talking about this, and on the way to the hospital, she had a miscarriage. See how God took care of her? She was willing to do what God, to submit. And I'm like, this is crazy. This is all crazy the way she's talking. I didn't have the nerve to stand up from my chair and say that. I wish I had. But in my head, I'm like, this is not sound. It's not biblically sound. It's not relationally sound. It's not sound. Something's wrong here. But I think it's really important that you learn to have the confidence to think for yourself and say, this doesn't smell right. This doesn't pass the sniff test. I don't buy this. I don't think this is what God really says. This doesn't match up with God's character, right? This doesn't match up with how I read the Bible. Are you allowed to say that? Do you even believe that God has given you a brain to think for yourself? Jesus instructed you. He said, I've given you the Holy Spirit who will guide you in all truth. Is that just for men? Is that just for pastors? Or do you get the Holy Spirit too that says, inside your intuitive gut, this doesn't feel right. Something's off here. I can't put my finger on what's going on here, but there's something wrong here. You know that, right? That's something to learn to pay attention to. So we're going to invite our next guest, another Conquer sister here. This is Allison. Thank you for coming, Allison. Appreciate you. Hi, how are you?
Well, I appreciate you, not only for the last 2 years, but for this morning. God bless all of you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. So let me share a little bit about Allison's journey. She's a true survivor of abuse. She was neglected and abused as a child, and she continued that cycle in her adult relationships, being married to 3 different men. None of them treated her the way God meant for a woman to be treated. And I so appreciate your vulnerability, Allison, in saying that, because one of the things I think that other organizations and other teachings and counselors and all that, I mean, you're such a victim of abuse when you're a victim of abuse, and you are, that it's easy to say, I don't have any work to do. I just need, he's the problem. I need to get out of this marriage. And so you get out of this marriage and then you hop right into another abusive relationship because you haven't done your work. You don't know how to set boundaries. You don't know how to recognize the red flags. You don't know how to deal with manipulators. You don't know how to think for yourself, but you think, oh, I'm not married to him anymore. And so this is so wonderful that you've told this story, that this is third time now you're learning what you need to learn. And so we'll be focusing primarily on the last marriage, your third marriage. But what are some unhealthy patterns or beliefs that you brought to this third marriage that maybe you had in your second and first marriage as well, and maybe even in your childhood?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you for having me. It was fun to see Diana. She was one of my coaches when I was doing walking in core strength. So it was fun to be here with her. And again, just truly value the work that you're doing. So I feel very humbled and very thankful to be here. Um, just to piggyback on what you just said, our nervous system, my nervous system has been literally trapped. I've been stuck in a repeat pattern for so many years and thinking that I'm making progress only to cycle back. And so I think some of the things that I brought with me and that I learned as a Christian were about sex and marriage being like that those two go together. And one thing I think that I've learned since doing Conquer and being part of this healing journey is that I was never really taught to notice the man, the character of the man. It was just the focus on sex and marriage and that those two go together. And so this, even just the character of human beings and who you enter into relationship with, it's you just do it because, and because of the trauma history from before, I had such a vicious cycle with my own mother that I didn't. It's as if when the pattern happened with the men that I was with, it's like my nervous system found something familiar. And so even if I wanted to change it or get out of it or do all the things I was learning as I became a therapist, and I've also been a therapist for the past 20 years, is I would practice these things or I would teach other people to do it, but in the relationship with lover, husband, mom, I it's like my nervous system was trapped and I just went back to what I knew. So it's been a real journey, a real challenge.
Mm-hmm. And you also mentioned that you had some physical limitations that also added to that. Is that different than the nervous system trauma that you had as a child?
It's been really interesting to notice as a trauma survivor from both childhood and adulthood, and being a certified trauma therapist, to have this consciousness of what's happening to me. It's kind of surreal. uh, um, the so with I don't want to get into all that because I really want to stick with your questions. Um, the my husband and I'll go back to what you said before about focusing on the third relationship. Is so he and I started dating in 2014. We were engaged in 2015. We were married in 2016. We built a house in 2017. He stopped working in 2018. In 2019, he laid in bed for a year. And in 2020 was our motorcycle accident.
Mm.
And in 2018, I realized the cycle was there and I started going back to counseling. And I just remember being out on a walk and thinking, no, 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 this is not happening again. Please, God, I can't go through this again. And with the accident, I was forced, my life just stopped. Everything stopped. And I remember being in the house and seeing the destructive patterns just before me in a way that I couldn't escape. So before I could escape into my work, I could escape into all the other things that I used to. But here I am in no go mode, and it was just a real challenge. So healing from that and seeing his patterns of uh, neglect, stonewalling, gaslighting, things that I learned after I joined Conquer and after I started learning about you guys and
Mhm.
about your teachings. Well, really the teachings of the Bible and what Jesus says, helped me to just see more clearly. And then I started gaining some strength, not only recovering from the accident, but recovering from childhood trauma, and then getting stronger and more confident to take some steps to take care of myself.
It sounds like he was really good at one thing that was confusing you, and that was love bombing. Tell us more about, because I think sometimes love bombing gets confused with repentance. Like, oh, see, he's really sorry. But love bombing is a manipulative strategy. It's a manipulative strategy to get you to sign the cosign, to get you to sign the loan, to get you to do what he wants you to do. Now, if you don't do it, you'll see that love bombing change really fast. But love bombing is a strategy of manipulation. So tell us how he love bombed you.
Yeah. So in the beginning, before we even, during our dating, first couple months of dating, just jewelry and a beautiful leather coat, Harley Davidson leather coat. It was Pandora charm bracelet, a promise ring. You name it. We bought a fancy glamping camper together. Like, it was amazing, right? And the whole time he's telling me that I'm his soulmate and that we're, you know, supposed to be together, and he's never loved anybody like this before. And so, as attractive as that was, there was a couple times during that when it wasn't okay. And I tried to speak up for myself, or to say, I don't know if this is working. And the pattern of him then stonewalling me or guilt tripping was just, I didn't know it then, but I do now, was what my mom would do. And so, as much as I wanted to try to get out, I didn't have the confidence or the capacity to say, this isn't working for me, because I couldn't even fathom how to say no and to get out. I was, at that point, I was already stuck. And so, really, after I signed I was just thinking about that before coming on today, is post marriage, I don't think I got any jewelry. I don't, the gifts changed a lot. The last gift I got at the end, um, I've since left well. At the end, one of the times he gave me a mug with a picture of our dogs on it. And I remember thinking, what? Like, what is that? You're my husband. You're supposed to care. Like, here we are recovering from this accident. It's like, I get a mug with our dogs on it. Like, oh my gosh, it was just really telling.
Yeah, yeah, it is telling. And I think it's so good for you to say out loud that, because I think so many women beat themselves up. And so here you're educated, and one part of your brain knows better. One part of your brain is helping other people do better. And yet you're stuck in some of your old patterns too, because of stuff that you went through. And I had the same problem. And so I think the more, as women, ladies, the more we can be honest with each other, even God, allowing my honest foibles this morning, and how we had to switch gears with, all the StreamYard stuff. I think the more we can be real with each other, we can say, okay, she's not perfect. I'm not perfect. She didn't know better. I didn't know better. She's educated and she still didn't know better. And, and sometimes that just is so freeing. Like, we don't have to be perfect, polished, primmed and proper all the time. And not that we're going to be nasty and foul, but we're going to be real with what we don't know, what we didn't know, what we're trying to do, what we tried and failed with, and so that we can help each other get to where we want to go. What was the greatest lessons you began learning in Conquer?
Before I answer that, I just want to just piggyback on what you just said about with other women and with healthier people in my life, I was able to maintain a sense of self. But in the relationship with a destructive man, the way the language would work in the destruction is I literally lost my sense of self, because everything I said or did was told to me that I was wrong, that I was negative, that I was, creating problems. And that language is such a soul distorting, like who am I anymore?
Right.
It's such a sense of loss. There's so much grief when you recognize, oh my gosh, like, I am a different person in this marriage than who I I think I even am. It just becomes this big question. And so in
Mhm.
Conquer and hanging out with other women where you can have a conversation and share something, it's really different having a conversation with somebody who's also in a destructive marriage than it is with somebody who isn't. Because if they're not in a destructive marriage, they say things to you like, "Oh, just forgive him," or just, go buy him a present or go have dinner with him. It's like, you don't understand. So, uh,
Yeah.
it's just that loss of self, and I just really want to encourage people that in Conquer you start to find yourself again. That was really meaningful to me.
Thank you. And I
Um,
so appreciate that because it's true. We do lose ourselves.
yeah, yeah. Some great things that I learned from you and through this ministry and through this group of people. I loved the question that you would often ask is, "What is my problem with his problem?" And that was huge because when I recognized that I could not heal, I was not healing from the accident, I it became almost dangerous. It was the stress and the stonewalling was keeping me sick. And so I had to, rather than focus on him and think about all the things that he's doing wrong, being in Conquer and doing the coaching was, what's my problem? My problem is I'm really sick and I really need help. And so how do I do that? I have to make steps. I have to make changes. Another thing that I noticed was when I would talk to him, I would freeze. We'd be in a conversation, and I would literally freeze. My body would just sit in this stool. I can picture myself being at the kitchen counter and having him talk to me, and I would just be frozen with no voice, no, just this inability to even move. And I remember through Conquer and through all this teaching is giving myself permission to walk away. I had permission. I could move. And I remember being in walking in core strength and like almost live time. I practiced and it was so hard the first time I did it. The second time it was hard, but not as hard. The third time it was like, oh my gosh, I'm already on the stairs. Like, right. And then I remember like the fourth or fifth time him saying, "You always do that. You always walk away from me." And by the fifth or sixth time, I'm like, "Yep, I sure do." See you later. And just to feel a sense of peace once I got back into my safe space in my own home.
Mhm.
And then lastly, that one of the things I really learned was when he would do certain things, or anybody at this point, when another person reacts the way that they do, I just got information. And I love that. I don't have to get roped into it. I don't have to be enmeshed with it. It's just, oh, that's information about how they think. And for me to be able to say that today compared to 2 to 5 years ago, I was not this person. Like I was so embedded with other people. And to be able to now just it's like, oh, you just gave me information about how you think.
Mhm.
What freedom.
Yes, and I think this is so important. I'm so glad you brought that up, Allison, because I think to those of you who aren't familiar with that, it's really, when you ask someone questions or when you say, "Hey, you're free to be the person you want to be. I can't control you." Um, that lets him decide, is he just acting out of, childhood trauma that he needs healing from, or is he acting out because this is the kind of person he wants to be? And if he wants to be that, that's heartbreaking, but it gives you information. I can't live like this.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
And when I would point blank say, "Are you interested in working on this? Would you be open to us learning how to have conversations?" And hearing him say to me, "I'm not the one with the problem. You're the one with the problem." And I remember just being kind of like mouth open and I'm like, "Okay, it's just information. He's sharing something I've actually known, but because I was brave enough to just ask the question and sit in his answer, he really does think this is all my fault." So
And
that
he also thinks I have nothing to work on and I'm perfect just the way I am. And
Yep.
so if someone thinks that way, any effort to change them is just a waste of time.
Yep.
Right. Wow. Is there anything that you'd love to share with someone who's who's on the fence and not sure whether this would help them?
It's an investment into you. It's an investment that you will make that it will help you. If you sign up and you uh, do the work. I remember keeping your videos on. I would just have the videos on like on my podcast or just playing.
Mhm.
And it's just so valuable. There's so much information, Leslie, your book, everything. I'm so thankful. I'm
Mhm.
so thankful for you being a part of my life. And I think I just wanted to make sure I told people this. This journey is about you and your own nervous system. This isn't about that man that you married or even your friends or your parents. This is about you getting to know your own nervous system. And Leslie and Conquer and the coaches, I'm just so thankful. I'm so blessed. Thank you for doing what you do. Thank you for saying yes to God and for taking the scriptures and helping people like us to hear um, the truth. It's been really amazing.
Oh, Allison, that so blesses me. I think, I don't always get to talk to all the women in Concord. And so I love these live streams because I get to actually talk to you and meet you. And I'm so grateful that you did the work. And I think, it just shows women what's possible if you start caring for yourself instead of trying to, not saying you don't care for your husband, you care for him, but you can't fix him.
Right.
You can only fix you. You can't change his mind. You can only change your mind. And really knowing what's yours to own, to work on, and what's his to work on. And he said, I don't need to work on anything. You need to work on something. And that was true. But the fact that he said, I don't need to work on anything, gave you information that this isn't possible to fix together. Right.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but to get the tools through your book, through the program, you give away so many free things. I'm constantly sending out your videos to people, and just it's although there's part of it is an investment that you actually pay for it. There's so much valuable information that you give to people, and I'm just really, really blessed to be part of this, and hope I can continue to help to just help other women, because we're not alone, and realizing that marriage doesn't have to be the way it is for, sadly, a lot of people who just think it's supposed to be this way, and it's not.
Right. Yeah. Thanks so much. I appreciate you, Allison.
Yeah. Thank you.
It is October 2nd, I think, or 3rd today, and it's Domestic Violence Awareness Month. It's no accident that we do these things in October, because there is more publicity, more awareness, and domestic violence, as we talked about in the workshop, is not just about hitting. It's about squashing. It's about controlling. It's about not letting you be you. And it's not just him who doesn't let you be you. It's you who don't let you be you, because you're too scared to, because you're too scared of rejection or disapproval, or someone's not going to like it. And the truth is, I'm just going to give you a really quick illustration. I've given it before. If all of you were to put your favorite ice cream down in the chat, if you were to say, what's my favorite ice cream? Let's just do it. What would you pick? Put it down. What would you pick for your favorite ice cream? If I could all take you to 31 flavors right now and say, you guys get to pick an ice cream cone, what would you pick? Tell me what you pick. Put it in the chat. And I'm pistachio, butter pecan, pralines and cream. What else would you pick? Vanilla, coffee. Look at this. It's all different, right? We're not all the same. Cotton candy. It's amazing. No one's got chocolate yet. I would pick chocolate. Mint Oreo. All right. So we're seeing a bunch of Rocky Road. All right. So here's what I want you to picture. Mint chocolate chip. There's lots of metaphors to describe this, but this is one of them. So do you see how we're all different? So what you like is what your favorite isn't someone else's favorite. Does that make yours bad and theirs good? No, it just makes you different. But this is what women do. Women who don't have a strong sense. Now let's just put yourself in the ice cream. So I'm mint chocolate chip, or I'm fudge vanilla swirl, or I'm maple nut. That's who I am. And someone doesn't like that. You're like, oh, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? Everybody's picking chocolate. I should be more chocolate. I think I can't be me. I have to be chocolate. And then we start to lose who we are because we're trying to get everybody to like us. Not everybody's going to like you. Not everybody likes Jesus. Not everybody likes sunflowers. Not everybody likes roses. Not everybody likes broccoli. Not everybody likes green beans. God made you you. Your job is not to get everybody to like you. Your job is to be the best chocolate mint chip ice cream you can be, the best vanilla fudge swirl ice cream you could be, the best orange sherbet you can be. And those who like you will find you. Because you're so delicious, they will come looking for you. Those who like sunflowers buy sunflowers. I love sunflowers this time of year. Those who don't like sunflowers aren't going to buy sunflowers. Don't try to be a rose if you're a sunflower. So if we think about this analogy of dying to self as women, and we think of seeds, right? God has made you a seed. You are fearfully and wonderfully made in your mother's womb. And now you're born, you're still a seed. You're still not, you're just a child. You're not developed yet. You don't have who you are. You're just a body. You're just a body, a live body who's to be nurtured and tended, just like a seed goes in the ground to be nurtured and tended. And it dies to itself. It's no longer a seed. You're no longer a child, Paul says. I used to be a child. Now I'm what? I'm a nothing? No, I've died to myself as a child. Now I'm mature. A seed dies to itself as a seed, and it doesn't become a nothing. It becomes what God made it to be. So let's say you become a rose, and your husband says, but I really wanted to be a sunflower. Oh, well, I'll try to be a sunflower then to make you happy. And then you're exhausted because you can't be a sunflower. God didn't make you to be a sunflower. And so if you can teach one thing to your daughters, teach them to be who they are, because people who like that will be attracted to them, and people who don't won't. Right? Be who you are and learn who you are. And we mature as that, as we grow and fan into flames the gifts that God has given you. Don't extinguish them because they threaten the ego of someone in your life. That is not good stewardship. Just to keep a relationship, it's not good stewardship. The Proverbs 31 woman was all about using her gifts and talents. She was all about being a strong, healthy, courageous woman who could make her own money and make her own decisions and do her own thing. And she had a good marriage because they had safety and trust, not because he ruled over her with an iron fist. And so understand God's desire for you as a woman isn't for you to be the slave of a man. Dying to self doesn't mean having no self. It means dying to your immature self so that you can become your fully mature self, which is what we help you do and conquer. And sometimes it happens through adversity. And it might happen. And I don't want it to take 3 marriages to learn it. I want you to do it now. I want you to do it now so that you can discern good from evil. Why does the Bible teach us that we have to learn that discernment? Because sometimes evil masquerades as good. How many of you married someone who might have looked really good at first and underneath is rotten? It's a wolf in sheep's clothing, the Bible talks about, right? And I don't want that to be you. I don't want that to be your daughter. I don't want that to be happening again if you get out of this marriage. And so you have some work to do for you to grow through this painful experience. And I will give you a little bit of hope that sometimes when you grow and you become less reactive or less demanding that they change to be what you want them to be, you're not their God either. You don't get to decide for him what he gets to be. He gets to decide, just like you get to decide. He doesn't get to decide for you what you get to be. You get to decide between you and God, but you don't get to decide for him either. And if he wants to be a couch potato who wastes his life watching TV, that is his choice. You can invite him to different things, but you can't guilt trip him. That's being manipulative, right? And so if he wants to be a porn addict, that's his choice. You might not be able to live with a porn addict, but now you know. Just like she said, now you know. And these are hard truths for you to hear, but they're harder truths for you to actually live. And we want to help you learn to do that. Even in the community of Conquer, we have disagreements in Conquer. We have disagreements on our staff. We learn how to talk about them. We learn how to walk through them. We learn how to manage them in ways that honor both people, right? And so we want you to learn how to do that together. All right, let me look at my agenda, see where we are. I don't see anybody else in waiting for a interview. I don't see Susan, and I don't see anyone else. So let me just see what's next. If you are interested in joining Conquer, go to the URL on the thing. It's, if you're listening to this, it's leslieburnick.com/conquer sign up. Conquer sign up. And Martha, let's answer some questions. If you have questions about what we've talked about so far, could you put them in the feed? Make sure you understand this is a public feed, so put in what feels safe to you. But we would love to answer your questions for a bit until the next guest comes on. If you have any questions about Conquer, the membership, or what's been taught or said so far, not necessarily about your particular situation and what to do about it, but about this ministry or about some of the things that you heard today from the different speakers that you didn't quite understand that I could help clarify, we would love to take a minute and answer some of those questions. Anybody have any questions? I see Kelly and you are here, but I don't see them on my screen. So let me just, so it looks like my space is all full, Martha, and I don't see those people to add them to the screen. So I'm not sure what to do. Leanne, could you go off the screen? Could you like get off of StreamYard? Maybe that will give me more space to that and then look on it a different way. There's Kelly. Okay. So put your questions in there and then I will add people to the stage who are here. So sorry, my computer is much smaller than my other one and I can't see them. So Kelly, I'm going to bring you up. Kelly is our community manager in Conquer. Kelly has got this beautiful blend. One of the things I love about Kelly, she's got this beautiful blend of right brain, left brain. Some people are more strong on one side or the other, but she has this beautiful blend of empathy, compassion, people skills, and she knows her computer. She can find links. She can do research. she's got the right brain and the left brain, and there are lots of connections for her in between. And so she manages the Conquer community part of it. We have mentors that she trains. And we monitor our Conquer Facebook page pretty much all the time because we don't want any of you to be in trouble and not have a response. So we take that very seriously. We want you to be safe and we want you to get the help that you need if it's an emergency or, you know, we're not an emergency service. I don't want to promise that at all, but we do our best. We really do our best to make sure that your concerns are addressed. And that if there's something snarky or icky going on in the Conquer Facebook page, sometimes we are unhealthy ourselves a little bit and we get offended or we get triggered by someone's statement and we say things that probably shouldn't be said without thinking about them more. And again, we will talk to you about that because this is part of learning to be healthy, both in your marriage, but also in your relationships with other sisters. And so we want to create the safest, healthiest community we can. And Kelly is our community manager and Jessica helps her, but I'd love for you to meet her. And Kelly, just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, yeah, thank you. Leslie, it's such an honor to be here with you. I came into Conquer myself about 8-9 years ago as a Conquer member in a destructive relationship. So it is just such an honor and kind of a dream come true to be able to work on Leslie's team. And just to be in the place where I'm able to do that. I did not have the confidence.
Kelly, we're losing your sound a little bit. It's getting a little bit in and out. I don't know if you can fix your microphone.
I'm sorry. I'll talk louder. Is that okay?
It just is. It feels like there's something with your mic. It's going in and out. But
okay. All right. Sorry. Yeah. Lord, just let's pray that works. That
tech
people
problems,
can hear.
tech problems. Yeah. So far.
I know. Yeah. But no, I'm just grateful to be here. I'm kind of a poster child for Conquer. I've done the work, done my steps, and now I'm able to be at a place where I can help others in their work and do their steps. So, yeah.
What do you like best in the community?
Oh, best.
Yeah, maybe pick 2 or 3 things that you like best.
Yeah. Oh, I just love the ministry that we have. I think the thing was a couple things. First, of course, is I love that ladies have
put your earbuds in again. Whatever happened, you put your earbuds in and that helped, but then I don't know if they're popping out, but
okay, let's see. Does that help?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Okay. So just that ladies have a place where they're safe, they're heard, and they're understood. this means so much to me. I know many of our ladies come in like I did. I thought I was the only one. I had no idea there were this many women in these types of relationships. And so having that place where we can come together and share and be understood has been amazing. And then probably the second thing is that we're challenged. You know, we challenge our limiting beliefs and harmful mindsets. And this sets women free. It empowers the hard choices that we have to make to move forward in stewarding our well being. So I love that we have those challenges. We have a growth focused mindset, and it helps us move forward, freed from the guilt. Maybe the guilt of divorce or the guilt of setting boundaries, the guilt of guarding our heart. Because often, you know, I mean, all the teachings Leslie teaches, you know, and you hear it, we are often misled in those areas. So we're grateful to have true biblical wisdom.
Yeah, thank you so much. And talk about how the women minister to one another. And then I would love for you to mention a little bit about the mentors.
Sure. So I think just having that community where, you know, oftentimes when women come in, they're not at a place to be able to give feedback to others. But we have a community that, you know, a lot of us hang out there. When I signed up, even before I joined the team, I knew I am a lifetime member. I need these truths. I need this community. So many of our ladies have been there for several years, and they are able to give, you know, good feedback, collaboration. You know, I mean, Leslie gives so much good wisdom, but really, we find wisdom in each other. I mean, when we collaborate and share, we gain so much more than when we just are off by ourselves listening to the videos, because we are actually digging in, doing our work. When somebody just recently, I had gone through a situation and I couldn't really put my name on what I was feeling or what it was that I was bothered with. And then somebody else had discussed kind of the same area. And I'm like, that's it. That's it. The word was replaced. I was feeling replaced. And just, you know, being able to wrestle through our work together is so helpful, because it really helps each one of us gain insight and name things that we're dealing with, and then be able to move forward and process through those things. So,
yeah, I love that. And what does it take to be a mentor?
So mentors are gals in our community who have been there at least a year. They are women that I see are really in the Concord Library doing their work. They're showing growth. They're showing support for others. They're active in the Facebook group, because that's where we do our mentoring. So, and then they get extra training when they're onboarded as a mentor. They get extra training with Leslie, with me. We have extra meetings together. We have we have teams. Each day we have a team of mentors that go into the community, and we discuss things together. You know, we discuss, hey, have you seen this post? This member's in danger. Let's give her some support. And so it's just it's a smaller group of a team that we come and support you together. So
it's beautiful. And I remember, Kelly, when I started Conquer, I don't know, 11 years ago now, you know, it was just me in the Facebook group, me in the Facebook group, me in the Facebook group. And it, you know, and now I go in there a lot. You probably don't even see me in there, but I go in there because I don't comment so much anymore, because there's so much wisdom coming from the women in the group. And so I just want to applaud that, and the growth that, you know, the mentors and the women who have been there, you know, there's something very healing about not only, you know, having a voice, but using your voice to make impact. Not that someone's going to take your advice. You're not there to give advice, but to be able to say, hey, I don't quite see it that way. Maybe you could look at it that way, or maybe you could look at it that way, giving people the option to, you know, take it or leave it. But having the ability to articulate what you're feeling or what you're thinking, and learning how to do that and practicing that in the group is so, so powerful. And I think learning how to process feedback is also very helpful, because we are not actually honest in relationships. And if we are honest, we're snarky and cruel. And so I think learning how to give each other feedback in a constructive way has really helped some of our women learn how to give feedback at home to their children, to their husband in a different way. And that may be received a little bit better, or at least not cause some of the conflict that it caused before. So there's lots of learning that goes on in the community. And I know some women, they wouldn't be the ones here because they're not on Facebook, but we have other things that build community, like Zoom calls and the circle groups. Could you just talk about that for just a bit?
Sure, yeah. So we have our monthly Q&A calls where you can come in. We have one in the evening and then one in the daytime. So there's 2 each month where you can come in and ask your questions, and you get support from other Conquer sisters in the chat. And then we actually get to all see each other on the Zoom call, which is so beautiful. Getting to see some of the Conquer sisters share today, you get that times, so much more. We get like 90 minutes during those calls. And then we also have circle calls. And those are narrowed down to groups of people in certain circumstances. Like maybe you're staying well. Maybe you've chosen to leave well. Maybe you've already left and now you want to grow after divorce. And so we have groups for different circumstances that you may be in, and you can join more than one group if you're in more than one circumstance. But they're just another time together where you can see each other face to face through the Zoom call, and you just get that special time to talk and discuss and work through problems. And I just want to say, Leslie, I think you're so right in having this safe place where we can start working through these things. I know another area that it's been helpful for many of us is that some of these lies we've been told, so they were very damaging and they're triggering. We get triggered and our prefrontal cortex, we actually go into a trauma response. Our prefrontal cortex shuts down, and then we get in a situation where we want to use our voice. We know the truth now, but we shut down and we don't know how to speak our voice. So Conquer is a safe place where we can start practicing using our voice and speaking truth. And then maybe in a small group Bible study, we can start speaking up there. So it's a great community.
It is a great community, and we really value respect and safety, and everybody's got a voice, and it's okay to express your thoughts about something. We don't allow people to hurt other people in our Facebook group, and that's very rare. And so it's just a good learning tool. If you've not been in healthy relationships much of your life, you may not know how exactly to speak up about something that you feel offended by, or speak up to someone who you don't want to do what they want you to do, or whatever it is. And so learning how to do that in Facebook and in Conquer can really give you some amazing practice of what you're wanting to learn to do, but you don't want to do it with these other relationships. You don't want to do it with your sister yet. You don't want to quite do it with your mother yet, but you can practice in Conquer and get some feedback, because nobody learns how to do anything really well without practice. We all have our practice sessions. And so some of that gives you an opportunity to practice new communication skills, new talking, listening skills, new thinking for yourself skills. Like, wait, I don't agree with that. What is it about that I don't agree with? And figuring it out, or not being able to figure it out, but having someone else talk out loud with you. And like you did, Kelly, oh, that's the word. That's the word, right? I couldn't find the right word that explained or felt like how you felt, but I got it now, right? And so we don't do that well all by ourselves. Nobody does. But when you have a community of women who understand you, the maturity happens much faster.
Yeah. Yep.
Anything you'd like to say to someone who might be sitting on a fence and not sure if this would be the right group for them?
There's so many things. One thing we do in Conquer is we share our wins. And I'm not going to lie, there is deep grief going through what we go through, but going through that together, I have seen sisters so empowered as we lean into God, and I've seen women learn to trust their intuition, find their value, their voice, and prioritize their own care and well-being. Maybe get the medical help that they've neglected for years. Prioritize their safety and get out of those dangerous situations. We've just seen so many great things. Another thing we do is we share, I fixed my headlight or my windshield wipers or my washer machine. I installed a dishwasher. I mean, women are learning to do all kinds of things, and we celebrate that. And I just want you to know that you can do hard things, and God is going to make a way for you. Conquer is just a really great community to help you, to celebrate you, to validate you. You are going to find collaboration, you're going to find engaging discussions, growth-focused support, and real hope.
Thank you, Kelly. I love that. And I love that you're leading our community with such positivity. And, in the midst of negativity, it's very easy to go like, woo, down, right? And we don't want that to happen. And so we are very intentional about focusing on a growth mindset and recognizing our limiting beliefs so that they don't keep us in the mud anymore, that we learn and we grow and we move forward. This isn't about husband bashing. Some of your husbands have done horrible things. We've already heard from one whose husband was doing horrible things. I'm not saying you can't talk what happened. We all know what happened. But we do have certain rules about like blocking out their names. Don't send us pictures of your children. We want their privacy to be protected. You might not know, you might know someone who all of a sudden you see your pastor's an abuser and you didn't know that. And so we just want to make sure that everybody is protected, including your husbands, and block out their names, those kind of things, so that we just keep our community safe. And it's about what's my problem with his problem, not here's his problem, how do I fix it? Because you can't fix his problem. Obviously you've tried, or you wouldn't even be where you are. So it's what's my problem with his problem. And then you can talk about that with your Conquer sisters.
Yep, for sure. Yeah.
All right. Thanks so much, Kelly. Anything else you want to share before we go?
Yeah, just go to leslievernick.com/Conquer sign up. Our Conquer community is a place where living the light of God's truth is what we pursue together, surrendering and partnering with God in each next right step forward, journeying together. So we would love to invite you in.
Thanks, Kelly. All right. So we are going to close our doors to Conquer tomorrow, because we then go all staff into nurturing and getting to know our new Conquer members. We won't open again until the spring, but this is our year of having our conference. We have a conference every other year. Since COVID, we've done it virtually. We did have some people who wanted to come to Scottsdale, so we're doing a little bit of a live component. We have about 5 spots left for that, so I'm not really talking about that. But if you want to come live, let me know. But you have to be in Conquer. So again, this is a conference for us to meet each other virtually or get intensive, more support and help. We've got a couple of main speakers besides our coaches and me. We're going to have Lisa Turkhurst, who's going to be speaking about her new book on trusting, as well as the resilience. And then we have Chris Moles, who's a favorite of Conquer. He's a pastor who works with men who are abusive, and he's going to be speaking on what is biblical abandonment. And then we have Nak May. I can never remember which of her last name is the current one because she got divorced. Panini, and she's going to be talking about her rebellious acts of resilience after she was divorced by her Iranian husband, who she had helped to have released a couple years ago. You've probably heard her story. And then, he was abusive, and just an amazing story of resilience. And our whole conference is really focused on helping you get the tools to build your resilience, because we don't want you beaten down and beaten down and beaten down. And we don't want you to have 1, 2, 3 marriages. We want you to build your resilience so that you are learning and growing from this awful experience. But you have to be a Conquer member to be a part of the conference, and you also have to join for the conference. So not everything is included in your Conquer membership. But if you would like to be in the Conquer conference, that will also be something that you are able to attend. And it's 2 weeks from today, and it's Thursday night, all day Friday and half a day Saturday. And we will be all together on Zoom, and we will get to see our Conquer sisters. You will have meetings with community people in your area to get to meet people that are closer to you. And it's gonna be amazing. We really don't want you to miss it. It's not mandatory though, but you have to be in Conquer to even have the opportunity to come. But we want you to join Conquer, and that's a pretty low cost for you to get your feet wet. If any of you have ever gone to a therapy session, I was just looking online because I haven't practiced therapy for 10 years. So I know what I charged 10 years ago. But I was just looking online, and it's anywhere from $175 to $350 for a 1 hour session. It's a lot of money. $175 to $300 for a 1 hour session. That's really not a whole hour. Usually it's 50 minutes. So if you took $37 a month and you times it by 10, that's $370. So you can get a whole year of Conquer for $370. And I'm not saying it's a therapy replacement. It is not. You will get all the therapy information. You won't get the personal digging in your own soul and spirit that a therapist would do, for sure. You're not going to get that. But you're going to get a lot of information about things that you would learn in therapy. And you're going to get a community. And you're going to get better prepared that if you choose to work with a therapist or a coach one-on-one, you're going to have a better idea of what you need to work on, because you'll begin to get clear instead of sitting there saying, I don't know, I'm just so sad, I don't know what to talk about. You'll know what to talk about. And it's not him, it's me. How do I need to handle him? How do I need to have boundaries with him? How do I need to help my kids with this, right? These are the things that we're going to help you do. And all that information is in the Conquer library. And your sisters will show you what they've done. And our coaches during the phone calls will give you some next steps to try. And those will be the things that you can do and work on. It's not a huge investment for you to take a risk for you. The bigger investment is your time and your energy, right? Your time and your energy to put towards doing your own work. Because I've signed up for lots of programs that were expensive and I never did them, right? And for those of you who know me, I've been in this art program for 3 years. And if you've seen my paintings from then till now, you know I'm doing better. And I'm still signing up for this program, and I'm still in this membership, and I still watch the videos. And I'm watching old videos that I did 2 years ago, and I'm painting the pictures better this year. So that's how learning goes. I don't know if you read your Bible very often, but I tend to read my Bible. I don't read the whole thing every year. I read my Bible every day, but I don't read the whole Bible every year. But I tend to read the whole Bible every 2 years or 3 years. And I've read the whole Bible a lot of years. I'm pretty old now. I've read it at least 25 times, the whole Bible. And I have to tell you, every time I read it, it's like, I never saw that before. And why didn't I see that before? Because I wasn't ready to see it. I wasn't ready to see it. So even things in the Conquer library is not the Bible, but even things in the Conquer library. I've read a book, a psychology book, and I'm like, wow, I didn't know this was in here. Because when I read it the first time, my eyes couldn't see that part. My heart couldn't receive that part, right? And so even as you think you're getting better, you are getting better, but you might revisit some of the library stuff and say, wow, I wasn't ready to hear that before, but I hear that now at a deeper level. And so this is a resource that's for you. We have Conquer Lifetime members that have just been there forever because they realize. And there's something very healing about saying, my story matters because I can help another woman. I'm now equipped to help another woman. And that's healing and powerful. I'm going to invite Coach Susan to come up and share a little bit of her reasons for loving Conquer. Hi, Coach Susan.
Hi, Leslie. How are you?
I'm
Doing great. I know it's a rough start for you.
Oh my gosh, it's been
You're
rough.
doing a great job.
Thank you. I've got I try to avoid this light coming out of my head, all kinds of things that I didn't have a chance to stage at all. So it looks like I've got like poles coming out of my head and all the different things. But all of you people are my friends. You understand, right?
Yes, we do. We're here with you. We've been praying and supporting you, even if we're off screen.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. I needed that. So Susan is I picture her, and Susan, I hope this doesn't feel, I picture you as so in Prescott, we see a lot of deer, and I just see you as this gentle deer, this beautiful female deer, not with the horns, but the beautiful female deer that's just so graceful and gentle, a little timid, but just really strong. And just so attuned. You know how deers are so attuned, any little noise, any little, and so Susan is probably the most body conscious, tuned to herself and her needs and what's going on. That just is such a gift for her. And so I love that every time I talk to Susan, I talk slower because I'm tuning to her rhythm, and I feel I'm still talking faster than her, but I'm talking slower than I normally talk. And she's just such a wealth of wisdom. She's such a wealth of wisdom. And Susan, I just love you, and I just am glad you're on part of our team. And I wonder what you like most about Conquer.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you for that. And yeah, you help speed me up, and maybe I help slow you down. And so we're a good pair in that way, right? We help each other and support each other in that way. So the question you asked me is what I like about Conquer.
Yeah, what do you like about Conquer?
Yeah. I love to see women supporting women and getting stronger. You may have heard someone say that strong women make men weak, right? And I don't believe that's true. And I just see women building strength together, encouraging each other, supporting each other. And I think great things are happening, right? Maybe men are feeling called out a little bit more to do a better job. But I love to see women supporting each other and coming alongside one another with encouragement and support and helping each other, like you just did for me, see their gifts, right? And to see where maybe God is directing them to use those gifts. It's such a beautiful thing. It makes the world a better place. It changes generations for those little girls growing up.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's just so meaningful in that way.
I couldn't agree with you more. And I think that, if we look at history, if you read any history books of, Little House on the Prairie, even kind of books where people didn't have all the distractions that they have now. They had a lot of work. They were busy, but they had a sense of community. They really knew people had their back with their neighbors. We don't have that sense as much anymore. Culture's moving very fast. People are getting more and more depressed. Just research is showing that we're feeling more and more disconnected. Even in churches, we have mega churches. We don't even know who we go to church with anymore. And so having this community, I think, has been a lifeline for so many women, because having women who know what their life is like, and they don't have to lie and pretend. They don't have to be different than they are right in the moment. They can be in a puddle of despair, and they're still loved and accepted, and we can help them move from that puddle to a place of strength and dignity.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes it takes that, doesn't it? When we are in a puddle, when we are feeling broken, traumatized, shut down, it does take somebody coming alongside and sort of helping us move our feet right out of that stuck place. And I do see that happening as I kind of visit the support group. I see the women talking with one another and supporting each other. It's such a beautiful thing with the mentors and just the members, how they speak to each other is so welcoming and comforting.
And you just said something, Susan. This is Susan's wisdom just oozing out of her, but she said something that I think is really, really important. She said, coming alongside of a woman who's in a puddle and helping her move her feet. Not picking her up and carrying her, helping her move her feet. And I think that is a distinction. Sometimes we overfunction and we're carrying somebody who has to learn to move her own feet. She has to learn to stand to her feet. She's not capable of doing it alone, but you put one arm over your neck and the other arm over the neck and help her move her feet. And I think this is the beauty of Conquer, is that we're not rescuing you. We're not saving you or taking you or doing it for you. You have to learn to move your feet, but we will be right there with you, helping you learn to move your feet. Such a beautiful picture that you just said.
Yeah, that is what's happening. That's what I see happening.
Yeah. What's your favorite part of the Conquer journey?
Well, I love that we have the Conquer journey all together, right? So each step I think is really important. My favorite part is it helps these tender new women coming into this with grounding and knowing how to start. I think it takes some of the pressure off. It helps them to kind of find a pace. This time around, this fall, I'm going to be talking about the stability step. And so that's going to be my favorite this fall. I think I move around with my favorite. But, as we were just talking about that image of the woman in a puddle and she needs someone to come and help her move her feet. I think that stability piece, right? Regaining those core muscles that you talk about with that acronym of CORE is so important because we grow weary. We get out of sorts. We stop practicing good skills when we're in destructive relationships. And our core gets weak and we lose sight of that. And so that stability step is all about strengthening so that you can walk on your own and move forward. And also, we've been hearing about trauma and dysregulation. I think that stability helps you to learn to regulate, to identify those really big, intense emotions and work through them because there's some big ones there, right?
Yep, there are.
Trauma, shame, grief, all of those come up and they can really derail you if you don't know how to manage them well.
Yeah. And I love that you brought that up because one of the things that we do teach you, remember that circle that I drew for you, is that we have, it's kind of messy now, so you're not gonna be able to read it, but our body, and then we have our thoughts, and we have our feelings, and we have ourself. Who is ourself? We're not our thoughts and our feelings, but ourself is going to either be our reactive self, who just reacts to all this and doesn't really realize you have a choice. So here's where your chooser comes. Like, here's where agency comes. Here's where your power is. That internal, we talked about the internal, external. Here's where your internal power comes, is right here. Choice. Am I going to be reactive or am I going to respond out of my noble self? You get to decide that once you're awake, once you're conscious to it. Otherwise, we all live in reactive mode. Kids do something you don't like, you react, and then you regret it because your noble self knows I didn't handle myself well, right? And so if you're living with a lot of regret, it's because you're out of alignment with who you are, who God made you to be. And we want to teach you how to do this so that you are learning those skills of how do I deal with these overwhelming feelings.
I love that word alignment. That you used. And that's part of building that core, right? Is getting back in alignment, strengthening those muscles. I think about the posture of a ballerina, right? I'm a bar girl. I love bar class and I love going to the ballet and just watching how strong those women are. And you can see every muscle, right? Because they've worked so hard on that to strengthen themselves. And that's really what we're doing in Conquer, is learning how to strengthen so that you don't live out of your feelings, is that you learn who your core self is.
Yeah. And you have your feelings and you honor your feelings, but they don't control you. And isn't that a gift to be able to choose? Oh, I see I'm really angry right now, and this is what I will do and this is what I won't do when I'm really, really angry, right? And that's power. That's power. To have that kind of awareness and that kind of self-control. Anything else you'd like to share if someone's sitting on the fence about joining Conquer?
Well, I would just encourage you, if you're on the fence, get clear with yourself. Why are you on the fence? What's holding you back? Name it. Is it fear? Is it shame of stepping out and saying I'm in a destructive relationship? Is it hopelessness? Is it just overall weariness that you don't want to try anymore? Is it money, right? Is it that you're afraid your husband will be angry with you? I would encourage you to put words to that and ask yourself, why is that holding you back? Why are you allowing something like that to hold you back? And where will you be if you stay stuck where you are? I think this is such a great program because it's pretty risk-free, right? Low fee, and you can quit anytime you want. But I really think, and I've been hearing this as women are sharing, if you do the work and you pay attention to your growth, you're not going to want to quit. Kelly said she's a lifelong Conquer member, right? And I think she even said she's the poster child for Conquer, maybe. But when I think of Kelly, she's done the work and she is a strong woman.
Mhm.
She is confident and she carries herself really well.
Yeah. And she's helping others in good ways. And so,
She is, yes.
yeah, there's a purpose in all of this, and God knows that.
Mhm.
I love that, Susan. And one of the things that I think Susan showed right now for all of you is that the power of a question is really important. What question you ask is really important. And Susan gave you a few of what's holding me back. Is it fear? Am I going to let my fear decide? And what's it going to cost me if I let fear decide? These are really important questions that can take you forward or can leave you stuck if you don't address them and look at them. And so we teach you to be able to ask yourself some questions so that you can teach your kids to ask themselves some questions, and all of those things that lead to life and not death in your soul and in your spirit, that you are growing and not languishing.
Mhm.
So thanks so much for that, Susan. I think you brought some really key points of learning to walk yourself, and helping your Conquer sisters are helping you learn to walk, not carrying you. And also the questions that you ask yourself can be really powerful. And I hope that if you're still on the fence, that you are asking yourself those questions so that you can help yourself make a good decision.
Mhm. Good to be here with you. Thank you, Leslie.
Thanks so much. All right, take care. Bye-bye. All right, well, we are almost rounding the corner to our final 3 hours. And what I want to do is invite one more guest, a Conquer sister with a story, to share with you how Conquer has made a difference in her life. And then I'm going to open up a little time for Q&A about Conquer if there's anything that you have. But here is, let me just find my notes here because I'm going to say the wrong name here in a minute. This is Laura. And Laura had, let me bring Laura up. Hi, Laura. Oops. Hi, Laura.
Hi.
How are
Hi.
you? I love your sunflowers.
They're there.
Yeah.
I'm in my other home, so I can't show your beautiful painting behind me. So
Oh. So where, what location are you in? Can you say?
I'm in Seattle now, but I do have a home in Alabama where I have your painting on the wall from 2 years ago. I won it at the Conquer conference. It's just displayed so beautifully. So
Oh, that's
yes.
wonderful. Yeah, I have the Conquer conference painting that I finally finished it, and it's really a funny story, which I'll just say in a minute. So my granddaughter wrecked a painting of mine. She didn't mean to. She just thought it was a free canvas, and so she just painted like gray and green, and it just looked like looking into a telescope at the universe where it was all dark with a few like planets out there, but it didn't look quite that beautiful. And I thought, I'm going to take this painting and use it as inspiration for Conquer. That, hey, when someone ruins your life, so she ruined the painting, right? We could say it. I mean, she didn't. It wasn't costly, but she changed the painting. She did it. Is there anything I can do? Is there anything I can do? And so I took that painting and I made a different painting. And all I did was ask myself, it's not a face, it's just a painting of abstract. And I said, do I like it or don't I like it? Do I like it? Do I not? And that was my decision to help me to paint something I liked and see what came out. It was very creative. And the night before, I didn't like it at all. And I'm in the laundry room scrubbing the paint off because I didn't like it at all. And then the next day, I liked the scrubbed effect of that painting. And so then so it's just so interesting when you do your work. There's parts of it that you don't like. There's parts of it that you just stop doing, you wash away. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh. And so the painting will represent all that at the Conquer conference. And I'll give it to one of the women as a door prize. But yes, I'm glad you brought that up. Thank you.
Well, and that's exactly like in our stories. It's like I had to recognize, and we'll maybe discuss these details later, but that I made a choice and my life was never going to be the same again. And so that painting wasn't going to be back to what you had originally started.
Yeah. No.
It was going to be something new, and that God would remake that and bring delight to you and put together your skills and your abilities to create a new painting that was going to have its own new life, that wasn't going to be what the other had been.
And it's such a beautiful metaphor for what's happened in your story. And so ladies, when someone throws paint on your painting, your life, your husband, puts black tar all over your life, you can sit in a heap and be angry about that, or you can say, what am I going to do with my life? How am I going to build something different? So Laura, what were some of the elements? Start there with, what did the painting look like? What was it like in your marriage?
Well, I was married for 29 years and with him for 32. And there was just kind of like an always present, even in dating years. So I'm remiss to say I knew and had some signs early on, but didn't know what to do with that or how it was going to affect long-term what our marriage would be and relationship. But then there was gaslighting and neglect and, the bullying, and it escalated to physical abuse. But I was, having good times as well as bad. Then I would find I was confused and a little off kilter and exhausted. But the problem was that I began losing myself, which is part of what Allison said too. Just like, where is it that I'm over functioning? I'm trying at every turn to pretend that life's good, working hard to be fully committed to my commitment to the relationship, my husband, a Christian marriage, our 2 children, the home, church. I was working, homeschooling, working outside of the home, and just trying to pretend that this mess actually wasn't a bad reality, and how to make it good. But tolerating his bad behavior became a lifestyle, and I found that then my priorities were changing, and fundamentally my character. So I was maybe being secretive or distorting my relationship with God so that it would adopt a convenient theology that would justify the crazy, and lying to myself and to others. And that's the crazy making I found myself in. And it's like, yeah, then what?
Yeah, and there were some kind of more icky parts of your relationship too. I don't know how comfortable you are to speak about that, some sexually icky stuff and some alcohol issues, and share whatever you're comfortable with or not. It's fine. But
I'm getting more comfortable as these things are now coming to serve a purpose, that I can encourage somebody else in these situations where we have to hide and, pretend it's not me. And yet here I am. What am I going to do? What's God going to do in using this? So that's where now he can use my situation for another person to recognize it. But yes, alcohol issues and being sexually perverse, because from the beginning, even in our dating and newly married years, alcohol and pornography were factors, and it distorted his brain. It changed his drive, his expectations, and he took me to places that were very wrong. And then there was no room for me to say no during our intimate times. And then while he was drinking, it would be erratic or angry, controlling. There were plenty of times in the middle of sex that I would just be praying it could stop. Can we be done? And I definitely knew that's not what God wanted for sex and marriage to be. But then the confusing part is that other times, Leslie, we had sex that was enjoyable and even a nice reset to attitude and unity. We could enjoy a casual drink and it would be no big deal. There was genuine love and attention that seemed to be in place. But we were raising kids in step. We'd go on adventures together. So just the fact it wasn't all bad, there wasn't a clear line in the sand, so that I then could minimize the extent of the impact to the real troubles, and things were normalized, like smoothed over. And ultimately, I realized though that I was making him an idol, and what he wanted, what he was controlling and driving, that's where I recognized my character was shifting, so that he was even above God. I let him write my reality and normalize things that were wrong. And then if what I thought aligned perfect to the perfect family picture and to what he wanted, then we were good. And so it seemed like, oh, then we're doing what God wants. But it really was what he wanted, my husband. So even maintaining the marriage became an idol, where I put its survival above my devotion to God. So that's when someone mentioned that idea, and I had to say, well, what do you mean by that? And I had to come to a reckoning.
So what began to open your eyes?
God's timing is good. I mean, it's perfect. And I can see now that God left me in a position where I could stay well without knowing those terms. I would get the right information at the right time to operate. I've, talked with my children to consider the things that I left them in, how we work together as a good team. But then I started getting information like, what is a narcissistic abuse cycle? That was like there's a Facebook post that a friend commented, this is really sad. And I'm going, oh, that's really me. And just to have my eyes open to what a honeymoon stage was, and then to be squashed, and then love bombing, and to have him explode again later. It's like cycle. But God showed me some truths of where that harshness was. And my enough moment came in August of 2016. And I recognized that the physical abuse had happened a year prior. I was trying to do the last effort of one more round of counseling, and we bought a house together. I changed work. We're trying to remake now that the kids are gone and reset. And then it just still escalated. And I realized I am staring evil in the eye and cannot continue with this. I'm not going to perpetuate this as a legacy for my children. And my new granddaughter was yet to be born that year in a few months. It's like, what's my life ahead going to be? Like you were saying, I have to question, what do I want? What is my legacy? And so I texted out to 3 friends and said, I have got to go. I don't know how or when. I was better prepared a year ago when that abuse had happened, but you have to hold me to it. And then one girlfriend texted me back and said, I've been reading this great book and it really makes a lot of sense. And you have got to get this. It's called The Emotionally Destructive Marriage. And all the terms are there. And it's like, oh my gosh, I got it on Audible and devoured it. And Leslie, you put words to my reality, and I could see there was a plan. There were safety options, words I could use, key questions I could ask myself and my husband, and like practical steps to take. So it became an option to like a lifeline to pull me out of the pit, to just give me that one bit of confidence that if I don't want to pretend, the narrative could change. But I needed that shift, and Emotionally Destructive Marriage book was it.
And so then from there you joined Conquer?
I did. Well, I initially didn't have that option because it was the twice a year of offering. But after I drove away with just what was in my car in September of 2016, just 8 years ago last week, I knew life would never be the same. And I had my eyes opened. I had no freedom in myself. And I joined Conquer in May of 2017 when it was open. I was then on the path of self-discovery and healing of my soul and accountability to what my role was in that. And then just to be able to take that next step and learning the things that you taught.
Let's clarify, because I think some people get really confused when we talk about clarifying my role in that. You had nothing to do with being abused. That's not, so I think sometimes when we say that, it's not about you causing him. You didn't do enough, so he treated you that way.
Correct.
But what did you learn about yourself through that?
It's a very good line to draw, that he is accountable to himself. Even my leaving was leaving him accountable to God alone. I was no longer going to be a buffer or an excuse or to blame for who he was in Christ and his own accountability. But I had my own to look at. Where did I allow for things? Where did I let my character change? Where was I not holding a boundary? What was a boundary? I thought boundaries were, well, I didn't like them at all because I thought it was mean. Like I was trying to be controlling by setting a boundary. I had to recognize what healthy lines are and where it's allowing freedom in my identity. And so I had to recognize what's my identity in Christ, separately from being the role of a mom, a wife, a daughter, a sister, a friend. And yet, who does God say that I am?
Yeah, that's a really good distinction. And so how are some things, like how did Conquer help you specifically? You read the book, you sound like you were already waking up. What was the gains for you by joining Conquer?
One of the first things I was able to do, actually, I went back and looked at my journaling. And so journaling was a key component to seeing what was happening. I could put it out there and reflect. But I learned what the growth of Conquer was, and what you offered as a ministry and how it was newer back then. And I listened, I dove in. The calls were there, and I could start hearing how you would answer other people's scenarios. I would learn how to ask good questions myself of you. And then as you would process through those things in subsequent calls, or when you're talking with someone else, I would actually hear myself saying or thinking the things that then you said. It's like a victory dance. It's like, oh, my mind is changing. I'm starting to understand or see it differently. And so I found God rewriting my mind, and that it wasn't God, that it wasn't my husband's list of qualities or my obedience to him, but what did God say who I am? And so the calls were important. The work of going through living in core strength and understanding what it is to be in core and to gain confidence and to have that clarity, and then empowered to change. And every Conquer conference has had a great message, and I have jumped in person in 2018 and online. And then this year's coming up is just so valuable. And it's really put ministry of truth and love, encouragement, like right in front of me, that I could follow along with what you were offering and the community and the Facebook group. And it was really a new place to gain life and aerate, like what's the Holy Spirit going to do in me.
Mm-hmm. I love that picture, aerate. Yeah, really
Yes.
get some fresh air in there, right?
Yep.
So how are you different now?
I am different, and I can stand alone as a confident woman. I've got some strength and clarity and confidence because I am living in core, and can come back to those precepts again and again as I come up against some very challenging things, even still. Triggers that then come back, or now recently I've been talking more about my past. I'm in a new relationship, which is its own excitement, but God's doing his work. I advanced my education. I went back and got my bachelor's. I am now seen in church. I am a single woman on the financial board at church.
Wow.
And leadership and ministry has been opened up, and I can challenge ideas in other churches that are not healthy, and decide that we're going for what God wants, and who am I in God, and the church or specific mandates aren't going to have to govern us. We can make changes in a church or choose to be in a different place. I have a mantra that's been with me for decades, but it's been revitalized. It's life-bound living. So it's something that came out of a devotion decades ago. And it's like how to be life-bound, like bounding in joy, bound and determined to live, bound as in even obligated to live fully, bound like in destined to live and be everything God's designed. It's just a beautiful new step I have, and to put that into a relationship where now I'm confident. I've had to decide in the last 6 months, okay, I'm doing good now. Independently, me and God against the world, but who could I be as a partner? Can I be a good partner? Can I trust this new man as a good and loving partner? And will I be responsive to love again after what I'd been through? And it's the healing. There's healing, even in that work that's happening in that slow process of growing in vulnerability and in loving again. So stay tuned on that.
Yeah.
God's doing such good things.
How are your children doing?
They are good, and God's been so faithful in that, because they lived it. They saw enough that they were not surprised when I needed to call it. And they were encouraging even when it was very inconvenient for their lives. My granddaughter was being born 6 weeks later after I left. So I was navigating this really painful and confusing time while trying to get to her and being excited and navigate that with my then estranged spouse. But my daughter loves the Lord. God's redemption has been full in her life and in their marriage, and what they now can have as a new legacy beyond what she grew up in. And that was one of my goals, is that I had to make for change if I was ever going to stand against what was wrong. And so now, if anything, my daughter or my granddaughter would come to me, I could speak truth into what life is. My son is also doing well and has a healthy perspective on life. Each of them have the relationship that they can with their dad, but they're clear as to who he is, and they can enter in where it's healthy, and they can step away where it's not, have boundaries. And we talk about therapy. We talk about where they can gain clarity and that they're responsible for their responses. And so it's been good as adults to speak freely and give each other room to have grief in the process of what wasn't good. But there's what God's done in the process of it's been very redeeming, and we know that it's going to make a difference for each of us in the future.
I so appreciate you sharing that. And I think, letting our kids process for themselves what's really going on. And we can't even let them do that if we're so busy lying and pretending.
Right.
And I know that all of us have been taught that keeping our family together at all costs is always the noble sacrifice. And sometimes not, because it doesn't help our kids learn to look at reality and to learn to know that sin has consequences. And I think those are all really important lessons, that sometimes when we sin and sin and sin and we don't repent, the relationship is broken. And I think children need to understand that, because they're going to have expectations of real life that aren't going to happen with real life if they don't understand that at the beginning.
Exactly. I think it's been very helpful that I've been able to be very open with them in the right measure initially, but again, they saw enough. They actually were in the house at one point that a physical abuse moment happened. And recently, my son came to me with a friend that they were housing that had escaped domestic violence. And he said, "Mom, can we call you? We've got a couple questions." So we called, and I was talking to the gal. I said, absolutely, and could talk clearly of what she's navigating and telling her I understand. And yes, that's a confusing point, but here are some things I've learned. And then after we got to the point where I was done talking with her, I realized, oh my goodness, I was on speakerphone and my son just heard all of that. That was even a little more personal. And they were ready to go and hang up. I said, Dan, just a moment. Daniel, if I realized you heard all that, if there's more you want to talk about. And he got teary and said, yeah, Mom, I've actually thought of what I maybe should have done differently. And I could release him of some of those things. And we've been able to talk more closely. So here he's, 27 years old now, and it still matters that his experiences, who he is as a man, what our relationship was. Also, my daughter, I learned after the fact, had been suicidal and had a plan. And I learned of it 10 years later. And the only reason I'm not a mess is that it didn't happen. And God has brought her through to having a ministry of her own. But her out was, I can't leave Daniel alone. And so that was the reason she didn't follow through. And I knew that I created that. I put together their friendship, their bond as brother and sister. And so God was still in all of it. But yes, who they are, how we process now as adults, how they are taking this history and still becoming more, and also, forgiving their dad, forgiving me, and that God's redemption is in tune with it in the process.
That is a beautiful, beautiful ending. And I think so many of us worry, if I take this step, I'm going to ruin my kid's life. And if you don't take the step, you might ruin the kid's life. So any final words that you'd like to share with someone who's sitting on the fence, not sure whether they should join Conquer?
Oh, this was a lifeline for me. Like Kelly said, I am a lifetime member. I am so privileged to have grown through this most horrific time with sisters who get it, with you who had a passion and were faithful to God's calling on your ministry, your practice, to see this was a need, and that we are here. We're walking alongside new members. You're not alone. You can be seen and understood. Like Kelly was saying, the wealth of information for the value and cost of money. It was my therapy that I could afford at that time. And yet I know it's not legal therapy, but it helped to be finding just the right bit of information at the right time in the right measure. There were times I couldn't listen too closely to some of the stories because it was bringing me back to some very dark places. And then other times I was in the right place to just press in, but I was doing my work, and Conquer allowed for all of that up and down and processing. And there is nothing to lose. And Conquer has just been a cornerstone to my health and wellness and future.
Thank you so much for sharing. And I want to highlight one thing that you said, because when you join Conquer, one of the things that we encourage you all is to take care of yourself. And so you might hear stories that like, oh, this is too hard for me to hear, I should quit. No, it's a sign that you're paying attention, that you're paying attention to that you need to have some better boundaries. And this is what you're here to learn, to notice, oh, I can't sleep after I read those stories.
Yeah.
And I can't sleep after I read those stories. I don't look at Conquer late at night because I'm having your nightmares. I don't want to do that. I need to function in the morning. So when you notice that about yourself, it's not that I can't do this or this is bad for me, but create a boundary for yourself. I can only go on here for 5 minutes a day, or right now I'm not able to do that. I'm just going to watch the videos. So know yourself and get to know yourself. What's your body telling you? What are your feelings telling you? They don't get to decide, but they certainly get to inform you.
Yes.
And those help you decide what's good for you. And that's part of what you're learning. So practice it. So I appreciate you bringing that up.
Yes. Thank you, Leslie. I just appreciate all that you're doing and just opening this up and trusting that God's bringing the right people at the right time. But you also continue to rally others who can speak into the ministry, and the conference having Lisa come and just the others that are going to be in the midst. We have a blessing of pressing in and finding all that you have done to
Thanks
grow.
so much. Thank you so much. All right, I'm looking to go. All right, we are wrapping up, and I see some questions. So quickly, let me read a couple. One is, how do I find a church that believes this? My church wrecked me, and I don't have a supportive community around you. Will Conquer help you with this? They will help you get a supportive community around you. They can't find you a church, but they will teach you what to look for when you are ready to start finding another church, because you do want to find a church. And I was very encouraged last week. I got a nice pastor, a letter from a pastor saying, this is way out of my league. I'm over my head. I'm reading your book. I'm watching some of your free videos. And, and I just encouraged him and supported him and said, I'm so glad you reached out. And so, thank you. And pastors who want to learn and grow, there's help for them if they want that. But honestly, most pastors don't think it's a problem, or they're valuing the sanctity of marriage more than anything else. And so they're on this one note, well, we've got to reconcile, or you got to forgive, or you got to try to trust them again, just so that you can get back together, because that's what they've been taught. It's not that they're being malicious, but they are being a bit short-sighted and ignorant on this topic. And so it's easy to want to find a rescuer. And like Susan said, she taught her to walk. And one other question I saw in the feed is, hey, some women join Conquer because they want to rescue other women. We really don't want you to do that. That's not your job. Your job is not to rescue another woman. Her job is to rescue herself, right? Her job is to rescue herself. That you only get empowered when you stop looking for the hero of your story. You're the hero of your story. So stop looking for the pastor, stop looking for the counselor, stop looking for the other man who's going to get you out of this mess so you don't have to do your work. Part of Conquer is to say, hey, this is your story, and you get to be the hero of your story. Doesn't mean that God doesn't play a part, but Leslie isn't your hero. I'm your guide saying, let me show you how your feet work. Let me show you how your brain works. Let me show you how to set boundaries. You have to do it because you're the hero of your story. And so just churches are important, and we want you to find one. But don't expect your church to fix this for you. You have to fix this for you, and you have to figure out what to do so that you get the tools to live your life and help your children live their life in the healthiest way possible. What is Walking in Core Strength? Conquer other groups. So Conquer is our largest group. It's an educational and support group for Christian women who are in destructive marriages. Then we offer some other programs that are very small coaching groups that you meet with, like Coach Diana or Coach Leanne or Coach Susan, and you meet with them for 6 weeks or 12 weeks. But there's only about 15 women allowed per group. And so those come up periodically throughout the year. Conquer's year-round, night or day, all the time. You can stay, you can leave. The coaching groups are, I'm committed with this group for 6 weeks. I'm committed for this group for 6 months. All right. And so that's a much higher cost for sure. And it's a very specific curriculum that you go through with the group together. Conquer, you sort of have this Conquer journey at the beginning, but you can go through the library and you could spend 10 hours a day on it, or you can not do it at all and just hang out the Facebook group. It's much more self-paced and obviously much lower cost. I want to join, but I'm worried about money. What encouragement can you give me to get creative, to get the $37 to join Conquer? Well, in inflation these days, $37 doesn't buy much, but it buys a boatload of stuff in Conquer. I didn't raise the price. I could have. People have told me to do that. We've been in Conquer for 12 years now. We started at 27. We've stayed at 37. And we give you a lot of value for $37. I think most people in the United States can figure out a way to raise $37 a month, whether you babysit a little bit, whether you sell some things and get $370 and join for the year, whether you do Uber Eats one Saturday morning a week or one Saturday morning a month and make $37 in tips. I think you can figure out a way. This is part of your journey of saying, I need this. Now, what can I do to figure out how to pay for that? Even if you were closing tomorrow, so maybe you need to borrow the money from someone you love and trust and loves and trusts you and maybe knows a little bit of your story to get started, and then work to pay it off, to clean their house, run their errands, babysit their kids, do their graphics if you're a designer, or whatever you can do, even though you're a stay-at-home mom. And when you join Conquer, we have a little book written by our Conquer sisters, how they figured it out. So the creative energy in that book is amazing. All different kinds of online opportunities, all different kinds of, ways that you can go to eBay or, sell stuff, or, you can make the $37 a month. If that's the least of your worries, taking the time and the energy to actually do the work is more important. But I think most people, if they really needed $37 a month, can figure out how they might make that work. Babysitting a kid one Saturday morning, or 2 Saturday mornings a month can give you $37. Actually, one Saturday morning probably could. So I think there are ways that you can earn some money if you want to be in Conquer. How do you deal with friends, families who don't understand your emotional abuse and keep telling you to find another way to save the marriage? Well, that's your job to decide who you're going to listen to, right? So you get to decide whose advice is helpful to you and whose advice is not helpful to you. People gave Jesus advice. He didn't listen to it all. All right. So you get to decide. You're a grown-up. You're not a child. You don't have to obey anybody. You get to decide what advice is helpful to you. That's why we're giving some advice. And you get to decide, even if you choose not to join Conquer or you choose not to follow some of the things that we say, because you're the one who's going to pay the price of it, right? You're going to get the blessing of it, and you're going to pay the cost of whatever you decide. So therefore, you get to decide. Do not default your decision-making power to someone else, because if they decide for you, oh, you have to stay married, all these family members, and you get hurt or your children are ruined and they kill themselves like some kids do because they're in such a horrible home, can't blame them. Well, you told me to stay, right? You have to own this hard choice. And maybe it's not the best time to make that choice right now. Maybe the choice is, I've got to do some work so that I can decide with confidence what's the best choice for me. The other thing that I see in this question is that you are looking for everybody's approval. And let me just say to you, whether you stay or whether you don't stay, you will never get 100% approval on your choice. So if you need everybody to approve of your decision in order for you to be okay, that says that you have some work to do on you, because you are a people pleaser and the fear of man is a snare for you right now. Is Conquer for only married women? No, it's for any Christian or any woman of faith who wants to live in alignment with her spiritual values and is in a very messy place. So it's not for just married women. We've had some divorced women who've joined Conquer who've been in that situation. They don't want to repeat it with another marriage. We've had people who are in the middle of getting a divorce, who've been divorced, and some who've never been married, but they've been in destructive relationships in other places. And so Conquer's been helpful for them. How do I know my husband has changed enough to end a separation? Well, the quickest way is to tell him no. All right. So if he's really, so we talked about in the workshop, if you attended, that control over you is a major factor, right? And so part of, okay, I'm going to do my work. I got a counselor. I sent you flowers. I'm taking the kids. I'm paying the bills. I'm being nice to you. So I've changed. So what if you said, I see all that. That's amazing. And I love the new you, but I'm not ready for you to move home. That's a no. It's a soft no, but it's a no, right? It'll tell you right there if he's changed. Because if he says, you know, I understand you need more time. Well, that's a good sign. If he says, you're not following God, our marriage is important, I need sex, it's all about me again, right? And he's manipulating you in a different way. He's manipulating you through kindness. He can manipulate you through scripture. He can manipulate you through your emotions and the children or threats. So the quickest way to see if someone has changed is, are you going to respect my no? Are you going to honor my boundaries? And if you don't know how to say no yet, and you don't know how to have boundaries yet, you'll never know, right? Because in the love bombing phase, or I'm doing everything right phase, there are good parts to your marriage. He is capable of doing those things. Whether he will continue to do them when you say no or don't do what he wants you to do, that remains to be seen. So the only way you know that is to test it. If I say no, what happens? So I'm not ready for you to move home. Do my feelings matter? Do you honor my no? Or do you gaslight me, threaten me, manipulate me, guilt trip me to get me to say yes? If he does that, don't confront him. Just see, oh, this gives me information. He isn't changed. He's capable of being nice, that's for sure, but he isn't changed. There's a difference. Okay, I hope you understand that. How do you decipher mental health issues from abuse? What about when he fakes change for a time? I think I just helped you think through that, and Conquer does help you think through that a lot. We have a lot of videos on that. How do I decipher mental health issues from abuse? So I grew up with someone who had mental health issues. You know, I think some people do struggle with mental health issues, and that doesn't mean they're controlling and abusive. It might mean that they spend too much money. It might mean that in the manic phase, it might mean that they think they're, you know, the king of the mountain if they're in a manic phase. But when they come down from the manic phase, when their illness is not doing what it does to their brain and their thinking capacity, are they remorseful for the damage they've caused? Are they willing to get help for the problem that they have so that it doesn't repeat itself? And if not, that's not a mental health problem. That's a character issue. Stubbornness, pride, shame, things we all have, they have it too. And then they have a mental health diagnosis on top of it, and they're not willing to admit it. They're not willing to do the work to put some boundaries around it. So I worked with someone who had bipolar, and she did something that cost them a lot of money, and her husband was furious. And she was truly repentant. You know, she was not in her right mind. And you know, she said, I give you total control of the money until you can trust me. I won't even have any credit cards. I won't have any passwords. And I will go to my doctor regularly. And if he or you, and she has some other accountability people in her life, her psychiatrist and me, if you sense that I'm not thinking clearly, that I'm not getting enough sleep, that I'm moving into a manic episode, if you tell me, even though I don't think I'm moving into that episode, I will trust your judgment, and I will get myself to the doctor and get a medical check. So that's called repentance with someone who's got a real mental health issue, right? They're willing to deal with it. They understand the impact. But someone, whether they have a mental health issue or just a physical issue, maybe someone's a diabetic and they're, you know, low insulin, and they're just out of sorts and cranky and can't buy anything and blaming you for everything because they're not thinking properly, but they won't eat right, and they won't check their blood sugar, and they won't take their medicine. That's not a diabetic issue. That's a character issue. And so destructive marriages, destructive relationships are character issue problems, not mental health problems. There's people who have mental health issues who have loving relationships. They're harder, but they have loving relationships. Just like someone who's in a wheelchair can have a loving relationship. They might not have all the perks of a normal sex life or any of those kind of things, but they have a normal relationship with the handicap. But people who are prideful, stubborn, belligerent, angry, unwilling to listen, foolish, those people, whether they're handicapped, mentally ill or not, they don't have good relationships. They have destructive relationships. And so I think we need to differentiate the two. All right, well, we are at the end of questions and we are at the end of our live stream. And thank you, God, that it worked. Even though I don't feel like I got to be able to be as polished as I would have liked. That's okay. That's okay. God can use a rock, he can use a donkey, and he can use an unpolished person with notes or trying to read her notes off of the phone without her glasses and do okay. It's okay. And I hope that you got a taste of what Conquer might be like, of our staff and who works in Conquer. We all want to help you get safe, and we want you to get strong, and we want you to get healthy God's way. But the most important person who has to want that is you. And we can't make you, but we can invite you. Try. Give us 3 to 6 months. Don't just say, I'm going to try for a month and then I never look at the stuff and I never do anything, so forget it. I mean, that's not really trying. But to say, I'm going to give it 3 to 6 months. I'm going to do the work and I'm going to notice. I'm going to start journaling how I'm changing and how I change. Let me just leave you with one piece of hope. I don't know that your marriage will change. I've seen a few change. And this is how it happens. You get strong enough, but still kind and still loving with good boundaries. So you don't shame your husband, you don't humiliate him, you don't, hurt him intentionally by harming him with words, but you use your words. Hey, I love you, but I can't live with you like this. I won't live with you like this. This isn't healthy for you. It's not healthy for me, and it's not healthy for the kids. It's a lose, lose, lose. Not doing this anymore. I invite you to take some time to look at yourself, but I'm going to take time to look at myself and get as healthy as I can. And when he knows that you aren't buying his gaslighting anymore, that you're not letting yourself be controlled anymore, that you're getting strong enough, you're still kind, you still love, but you're not doing it from a codependent, I need you to love me back kind of way. You do what you do. I'm following God. That sort of puts a little bit of fear in them. And they will do one of two things. They will start to be attracted to the new you and want some of that themselves. And they want to get healthy. They just didn't know how. And they weren't raised in a home that even showed them how. And maybe they'll start doing some work of their own. Or they will escalate to try to get you to go back the way that you were. Or they'll find another woman because you're easily replaceable. There's plenty of other unhealthy women out there who will put up for a season what he's going to give them. And that's why so many of you are so shocked. I can't believe you found somebody else already. Didn't I matter at all? No, you really didn't. You only mattered in terms of what service you gave him. And when you start putting boundaries down in a kind way and you start changing, that will change things. I don't know which way it'll change, but it will change things. And for some women and for some men, it's changed them. And that man said, if I don't do my work, I'm going to lose her. And I don't want that to happen. And that's the only way after 40 years I have ever seen a destructive marriage change. So, and not many of them have. So I want to give you that even if you do your work, it can be good for your marriage. If you stay the same, you're only enabling his sin, your codependency or your idolatry, and your children to see something that's not healthy or good or right. Doesn't mean you don't have good moments. You might. But the whole structure of the foundation is dead man's bones. So I invite you to join Conquer. Conquer is helping you move forward in a good way so that it's attractive. We want to be a fragrant aroma, not a stink pot, right, of resentment and bitterness and guile towards someone who's harmed us. But that takes some work because we're full of resentment and anger and hurt. We are. I've been, and you will be too. It's okay. You just don't want to stay there. And you need a path out so that you can stand with strength and dignity, be your noble self in alignment with your core values, and invite him to healthy change too. And he may not. But now your kids have one healthy parent. They see one who's not reactive, one who's leading in love, not codependent love, but healthy, godly love, able to say no, able to have strong boundaries. This is what I will do. This is what I won't do. And that will help them see a huge difference between life and death, emotionally, relationally. And that's helpful, especially in this crazy world we live in now. So I hope you join Conquer. We would love to see you. We would love to see you at our Conquer conference. So if you want to be a part of our conference, you have to join Conquer and sign up for the conference as well. And you will get all the details of how to do that at leslievernick.com/Conquer sign up. But tomorrow is the deadline. Once you miss the deadline, we're not opening our doors again until next March. So it's a long wait if you really need it now. So I encourage you to really consider joining. And if you're concerned about, the money and whatever, if you're all in, I would just really encourage you to join annually because you get 2 months free. You only have one credit card charge this year and it's done. You don't have to explain any of that for your husband. You can get your work done, get to another place next year to deal with that if you want to continue your membership. But that may be the safest way you can do that. But you may need to borrow some money from your mom or from your friend or whatever and say, I will pay you $37 a month. For now, it's not safe for him to know that I'm doing this. But you might still need to do it for you. You might still need to do it for you. So I hope you do. All right. Thanks so much. Thanks, team, for bailing me out of this mess. Thank you, Martha, for staying so close to texting me anything I need to know. And I'll see you soon. I hope to see you in Conquer. All right. God bless. Bye-bye.